This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, welcome to our day 26 in our GCP Cloud Architect training. So where yesterday we tried to do, I guess there's an echo. Okay, so yesterday we tried to do a demo which was a combination of products which we use. We use CloudNet, we used the unmanaged instance group, we used a load balancer, then we used DNS where we were able to create a domain. We used a free domain using freenom.com, and we also saw how cloud content delivery network works. So I have not dismantled the demonstration or the demo which we did towards the end, so I have kept it like this because we wanted to do some more demos on this. So um, it's been running. So, and because no request is going to be sent to your load balancer, DNS and CDN, so there's not going to be a cost. The only thing which I did was yesterday I stopped the virtual machine. So the virtual machine which was created, which was made as an unmanaged instance group, was only stopped. I started it in the morning time. So that's the only cost. Everything else was basically based on the request you are going to be charged. So I did not stop everything. So just to reiterate, this was the website which we had. So you should be able to see it. It is still working. It is still working. And if I go to the other URL, dynamic, it still shows this is a dynamic showing the host and path rules, something which we did yesterday. And if we use static, I have a new image, LGWM. A new image. So everything is working as expected from yesterday's class. So what we are going to do now is explore, is it HTTPS? Okay, HTTPS. So we will explore more about the SSL policy. We'll see more about how we can have only HTTPS URL, even if by somebody by mistake uses HTTP, how we will do redirect. All those things is what we are going to see in the next few demonstration. It's going to be a continuation. It's going to be a continuation. So let's start that part. So I guess the first half is going to be mostly demos because it's a pending demos which we did not do yesterday. So this is where we stopped. Today, what we will see is we'll explore more about our SSL policy. So there's a, a feature in GCP called as SSL policy, which helps us, which helps putting certain policies, uh, how a load balancer should negotiate the SSL with the clients. What kind of clients you should use? Any clients which is using outdated certificates will not be able to connect. Something like there are the next version of SSL is your TLS. So TLS 1.3 is the latest version supported. Now we'll see what is our load balancer currently. Our load balancer with our SSL certificate, which is the one which has been supported. We'll explore more on this. So if I just go to my this thing, you can also go and look into it, and this you can do also yourself the demo. So if I just click on this padlock, you will be able to see basically the certificate. It has been issued. It was issued yesterday, 17th of April, and it's going to expire 3 months from there. 1 week before that, say, meaning it is 16th of July, right? So if I just go this time. So maybe 13th or a week before that itself, the data, it's going to be ready for renewal. So it's going to auto renew for the next 3 months. So it's going to be every 3 months, it's going to auto renew it. So you don't need to do anything because it's a Google managed certification. It's a managed service. So that's the first benefit which you get. And if you want to
Sorry,
explore more on, hello,
uh,
is there a question?
yeah,
Yeah, Manish.
regarding that free norm, I mean, Is it required
Yeah,
for this demo, or can we use some alternate way?
you can use anything as long as like I don't want you to pay a cost to GoDaddy.com or anything. So if you can get a free domain, you can go ahead and use it. There's no problem. Any domain
Actually, I
service
was
provider will.
trying yesterday to get this domain from Freenom, but I could not actually.
Okay, there is so you have to usually first enter a domain, proper domain, which is
Mhm.
available, then register it. So little tricky part. So there is a website which talks about it. Maybe I can just quickly share that part if you people wanted to try that. So it should be Freenom, right? So yeah, Freenom. I had a website. Uh, there's a nice article somebody had written, so where you can see how to do this part. Let me see whether I have. Yeah, this one. So look into this article. They share. It's a nice article. So you don't need anything, no credit card, nothing. It's just a Gmail ID is what is required. How to get different versions. Now, if you cannot get .tk, get .ml, CF, any of these domains. How do you enter? First step, go enter, look for it, then you register. Try following it. If you have issues, let me know. So this works is what I have seen. Okay. All right. So let me mute all. Now, what we will do explore is more about the certificate itself. We'll explore. So I will go to a website called as SSL SSL check. Yeah, if I go to this website, so SSL shopper, SSL checker, so it's going to give me details about the SSL certificate which we have got. So if I type learn GCP with Mahesh.tk, that's our domain. So let's just check the details of it. So the details shows very nicely. It gets resolved to this IP address. We know this is our load balancer IP address. So if you want to verify it, just copy it, go to your load balancer, and you should be able to see the same IP. So this is our load balancer. So if I click on my advanced menu, this is our load balancer IP address. So that's the information which it gives. It has been served from Apache web server. So it also shows what is the version. That's good. Uh, all the certificate should be trusted by all the major browser. Yes, it is there, and it's going to expire in 89 days. Yesterday we created it, so 90 days is very clear. So and it gives you that CA part, the certificate authority details. It gives you that details. It shows from when to when it's going to be valid. So this is a good thing. So it gives you very clear picture that it is free managed, and you don't get any further notification that it's going to be going for it needs a renewal. One time setup, you forget it. So that's the beauty of it. Now this is something which I did in one of the real implementation. Just thought of sharing it with you people. So this customer was very particular about what version of TLS is used. So they were very particular. So by default, we did not do anything here, right? So if you have set up a load balancer like this, there's a website called as TLS checker. There are lots of websites. So TLS checker, the first one I'm going to use it. CDN, the name and the use case is different totally. So maybe they have a different name. So this one is going to check whether you have TLS 1.1, 1.0, or the latest one 1.3. What is which is enabled? So if you just try google.com, so it's going to check and tell uh, excellent score for google.com, because TLS 1.0 is deprecated, 1.1 is deprecated, but they have still kept it enabled. TLS 1.32 is enabled. Basically, this is what it indicates. And the older versions are totally disabled. So this is a good one. Any standard websites will have this kind of a stuff. Now, I had also done the same thing for one of the applications which I had deployed, but the customer was very particular, and they had a a new team or a team which was doing penetration testing. They told we don't want deprecated TLS version, disable it. So let's go only, and it is mostly mobile. So they told we want only TLS 1.3 and 1.2 enabled. Remaining everything should be disabled. So that is where I started exploring something called as this is Google's this thing. Let me do another test. Let me try our own this thing with mahesh.tk. You can also give a try, folks. This is going to work even in your this thing. So it shows exactly same like our Google TLS check, saying that TLS 1.1 and 1.0, even though it is deprecated, it is still enabled. That's the reason it is showing as red. Now, as I told, so the customer was very strict with respect to the security part. They told disable it. We don't want it. So, which gave me an opportunity to explore something. So what was that was in the networking, you have an option called as network security. In network security, you have two service offering. One is Cloud Armor, which we are going to see in today's class. The other one is SSL policy. So SSL policy. So if I click on that, it shows the same thing. The SSL policy controls how your load balancer negotiates SSL certificate, SSL with the certificates. Sorry, SSL with the clients. So basically, if you already have a load balancer, you can definitely put SSL policy. Is a key indication. Now you may ask, what is the policy which is being currently used? So there's going to be a default policy which is going to be created by Google. That is what it's going to be used. If you wanted to see that policy, you can go to the load balancer and look into the details. So let me just go to the load balancer, click on the load balancer, edit. I don't know where to see it, but I'll try to show you that. It should be here. SSL policy, folks. So if I just see it, default behavior users to set Google managed SSL features that provides good security and wide compatibility. Wide compatibility is a key part here. So if you say, no, I don't want wide compatibility, I want something which is more modern, you can change it. So currently you don't have any other policy. That's the reason it shows only the default one. Either you can create a policy here, or you can come to your network security SSL policy, create your own policy. Let me just create a policy. So I'll call this as, I want minimum TLS 1.2. This is what I need. Okay, I have to. Okay, this is my policy name. Minimum, this is what I expect. So I will keep, these are the versions available. I'm just going to keep TLS 1.2. So meaning I am going to disable my TLS 1.0 and 1.1 version. So this is the profile which you get, folks. These are the profiles which you get by default for your SSL, negotiating SSL with your clients. There are different options. By default, it's going to be compatible. That's the default one which you're going to get, which is going to support all the outdated SSL certificate features also. But if you say wide set of clients, but the modern clients, if you want, go for it. Or if you say you want to have a customized one, you will have what features to be enabled. So I'll go use the modern option. So just mentioned what is the minimum TLS version required. Profile, I'm using a built-in profile called as modern, which is going to support wide set of clients and modern clients, basically allow modern clients. Now I add a policy to a target. The target is nothing but a HTTPS load balancer. So if I select, I will have that front end which we configured yesterday, the HTTPS. So if you just go here, so you see there are two front ends. One is HTTP and one is HTTPS. if you wanted to see the details of that, you see the, okay, I have to expand this. This is the name, HTTPS. The other one was normal front-end service. So what we are applying is, you can apply only to HTTPS. So let's apply that, and that's the only reason you see only one front end. Select it, save it, done, job done. So even though the requirement looks so complicating, after doing research, and this was the first time I was doing this part actually, so they were so strict. So after doing that research, was able to be so easy, did it, and it started working. And now you see, previously the default one was not even showing, but the moment you enabled a new one, the default shows. Currently it is not used by anything. So that was in a compatible profile. Now we made it as modern. So currently it is used by HTTPS front end. So if you want to verify it, I would say go back, refresh this. So now if I go to my load balancer, oh, here itself it shows. Load balancer, HTTPS, SSL policy. The one which we did is working. Good. So now you have to prove that it is really working, right? So what you can do is do another test, or let me keep the screen as is. Do one more time a test TLS checker. So let me use that domain. Awesome. This is the best option which you can have. Now everything is green. So you see the previous one, the deprecated one, we had kept it because the profile which was used by default was compatible. Now we went little more secure. So we deprecated, or we did not use the one which is deprecated. So only TLS, minimum TLS 1.2 is done. So the customer was able to check by themselves their app or the mobile app. They told yes. So this requirement got closed. So I'm not sure whether you are going to get a question on SSL policy, but in real stuff, you may do this kind of stuff really. So maybe you can put this in your design document. So you may ask that if the customer says, if there's a clause saying that it has to have support minimum TLS 1.2, basically it is something which you're going to play is with your SSL policy. Is this part clear, folks? Is this part clear? I'm not sure how much is going to come in the exam because a new pattern, nobody knows the pattern, but something which could be helpful for your real implementation. Okay, thank you. And it's going to be a continuation of the demos which we are going to make it more secure and secure as we progress. So good. Now let's do one more demonstration. The demonstration is HTTP to HTTPS redirect. This is a standard thing which people ask in most of the implementation. The one which we have done, what is this basically is, if I just go to my website back, I'm going to close all these things. So if I just type HTTP like this, it's going to work. It's going to work. Static lgwm.png. So you can, oh, is it redirecting? No, 1 minute, I have to do this. Okay, so now you can try it, folks. It works with HTTP also. It works with HTTPS also. So when you do with HTTP with HTTPS, you get a padlock, and when you don't do it, it's going to show unsecured. Now, if you look into any search engine optimization, all those things, right? Basically, Google already stopped for a long time to promote unsecure website. I myself don't even click on a website which is unsecure. So I don't want to even go into that website. People will not do that. And the search engines never give you a result from an unsecured website. So that being the case, there would be people who would not have updated their bookmarks. They may still go to a non-HTTPS website. You have to make sure they don't go there. If they go there also, it should be automatically redirected there. So meaning, if I do something like this, let's take Google itself into example, http google.com. So if I use something like this, it automatically redirects. You can try it yourself also. This is the same thing which we wanted to implement, HTTP to HTTPS redirect. So hope the use case is clear, folks. We don't want HTTP make our website secure, but people who have bookmarked it, if they try it with an HTTP URL or without putting any protocol and they type it in the address bar, it should automatically get redirected to HTTPS. This is what we wanted to do. So hope the requirement is clear. Thank you. So we'll try to do this. So what we will do is the simplest first. First of all, avoid people directly coming to this kind of a stuff, HTTP, and doing it. So what I will do is, the easiest option for me is, I'll go to my load balancer. I have two front ends. One is HTTP, which is going to be on port 80. The other one is HTTPS port 443. So I'm going to retain port 443, and the port 80, I'm going to disable it or delete it itself, not disable. I'm going to delete it. So I'm going to click on edit. I'll have only one front end. Go to my front end. Just delete my this thing. That's it. Now if I just refresh this screen, it will show it has only one front end. It's still taking time. Yeah. It's still validating. Let's wait for it. Done. Let me refresh it. Good. Now I have only one front end, that too it is HTTPS. Let's go ahead and see whether this is going to fulfill it or not, or it's going to be a half-baked solution. Let's verify it. It may not reflect immediately, but let's give a try. If it is reflecting, all good. Otherwise, we have to wait for a couple of minutes. But I can still able to access HTTP request. It's going to take a little couple of minutes, Kumar, to reflect the changes altogether. So let's just wait for a minute. I'll also check it. So I'll use it in a different browser. I have Edge browser, Edge in an incognito window. Let me give a try. I get something like this. Maybe try. It could be sometimes because of the cache in your browser. Yeah, if it's gone. So this is what we did not want to intend to have, right? We did not want this to happen. Somebody, because of their wrong bookmarks or did not, out of negligence or ignorance, they tried this. It should not give 404. This is the bad part, which a customer should never see it. Now they are not able to access the HTTP URL. That's good, but they should have been automatically redirected. So how do we do it? There are different ways which you can do programmatically. Also, you can do some kind of HTTP redirects, all those things. You can do something at a web server. There are lots of options. But since we are doing it in GCP, let's try to leverage a GCP feature and see how we can do it. So it's not working. For anybody, is it working, folks? Kumar mentioned it is not working for him. For me also it is not working. Anybody, is it working? If it's working, it's going to just take a couple of minutes for it to go off, basically. So the URL which you need to try is, okay, it's not working for Mangesh also. So this is the URL. You should see it's not going to work, basically. Two different extreme people in two different places of the world. It's not working. So which is good. That changes have been propagated. Now what I'm going to do is, to be very frank, I spent almost like when I did the first implementation, something of this sort, I spent almost like 6 hours to just get this part, and it was the most simplest configuration. I did not understand the concept at that time, so it took me 6 hours to do it. Now we'll see that we can do this in less than 6 minutes. So let me show you how do we do it. So what we are going to do basically is, we come back to our load balancer screen where we see one load balancer. The protocol used is HTTPS. That's it, right? I'm going to create one more load balancer. For the first time, we are going to create a load balancer without a backend. Without a backend. That is what we are going to do it. So request is going to come from from internet to VMs. Yes. Click on continue. Now I'll call this as HTTP to HTTPS redirect. Okay, so let me put hyphen if I can put. Yeah. So I will not put any backend, folks. No backend. There's no backend service. But I'm going to only play with my host and path rules. Another important stuff with our host and path rules. Yesterday we had explored the simple host and path rules where we added n number of host and path rules. It worked. Today we are going to see the advanced option where this could be used for URL redirect. This is what we wanted also. So we wanted a URL redirect or rewrite option. So usually this has been done. This is usually done in an Apache web server configuration. Now we are not doing at that software level, but we are doing it at more at an infrastructure level. So what I'm going to do is basically no backend. And if you see the action, redirect the client to a different host and path is what we are just going to say. This is the action. Now enable HTTPS. Only two setups, folks. That's it. Redirect and make sure you enable HTTPS redirect. That's it. Job done. Leave all of the stuff's defaults. If you want to explore more, you can explore it by looking into the documentation, but this is enough for our implementation for now. With all the default settings, only couple of actions to be taken. Done. Then the most important thing, go to your front end, give a name, HTTP. Please use HTTP protocol only. And the most important thing is it should be the same IP, folks. It should be the same IP, and this is a mistake which I did, which took me 6 hours to fix it. So please use the same IP address. Anyway, yesterday itself we had made it as a static IP. Now you see the real value of making it as a static IP. So use this. Let the protocol be HTTP itself and port 80 only. Click on done. Review. No backend, only a redirect rule. We are using an existing global IP. Create it. When I create it, I should see a new load balancer. And what I have observed is this load balancer, because it does not have any backend, no health checks, nothing. It gets created pretty quickly. Pretty quickly is what I have seen. Yep. The green is there. It is a global this thing. Now give a try, folks. Before me trying it, you can give a try. So if I just come back to my Chrome browser where it was saying it was not working, let me give a try now. It's not working. Let's give a couple of minutes for it to. It should get redirected automatically. Let me see. Not working. Should work. Actually, is it working for anybody? I'll just use one more time a browser. Not working. Let's give a minute for it to come up. So give some more time and come back, folks. No changes. Most of the stuffs are already done. We just need to wait for it to reflect. For me, once it worked very fast, it did not now working. So let's give a try after a few minutes and come back. Okay, let's give some time for it to come back. So this is one thing which I want. So it's going to work. It's going to work. So if it's not working, we'll try to see it. So sometimes the time is going to be required. The next part of the demo which I wanted to show is it working? Oh, awesome. Thank you, Kumar. Now it is working, folks. So it took time. It took time. So if I put a new browser, and please let me know if for everybody it is working. So just to show that the stuff which we did reflects everybody. Static /lgwm.png. Awesome, it is working. Try 2 times, working. Good. Thank you, Mangesh and Kumar, for trying it out. So now, yes, we have done it. So now our website is never going to show that unsecure stuff. People, even if they forget to bookmark or update their bookmarks to HTTPS, our website is going to do that part. Good. Now just pretend as if this is the awesome website which you have done as a as a cloud architect, as a customer engineer, or as a pre-sales engineer, or as a senior architect. This is a cool feature which you have done. Now, what you wanted to do is basically secure this website. Now everybody is able to access it, right? All 10 of us are able to easily access it. Now assume this is the coolest demo which you have done, and you use this demo to showcase the features about GCP to a customer. But having without a login page is the worst thing one can have, right? Anybody who knows the URL takes a snap of this when you're doing demonstration, and they may try to replicate the same thing. So we don't want to have that. So we want to have a login page. Only people who are authorized should be able to log in and do. Now, to do all those things, you need to have a skill set of how to write a web application, a login page. Then you should have a database like MySQL or Firestore, or even Firebase could be a good choice. So you have to have that stuff, then only you can log in. So that is a traditional way, right? Now, if you're a cloud architect and you don't come from the programming background, you can quickly use Google as your identity provider. So whenever somebody comes, now everybody is able to access it, right? Now what we are going to do is we are going to use the other feature of IAP. What we have seen so far is if we turn on IAP, we are able to SSH using the tunneling. Now we are going to explore a feature called as IAP, Cloud IAP, specifically for HTTPS resources, specifically for HTTPS resource, where it's going to ask you to log into a Gmail, to a Google account. So Google is going to act as an identity provider here, and it's going to be very few clicks which you have to do. You don't need to write a single line of code here, folks, to enable this part. Okay, so basically what is the expectation is, this is the last time you are going to see this website without a login. Next time when I log into this website, it will force me to log into account. It's going to redirect automatically to accounts.google.com, and it will ask me to enter a Gmail account, a G Suite account, or a Google Identity account, or anything which is a valid ID which has been given. So if it has been granted, I'll be able to see this website. Even though it is a very simple website, please pretend as if it is like a very jazzy demo which you have done, where only authorized people should see it. Basically, we are trying to put that stuff. That is what we are going to see now without writing a code. This was an interview question for me. So at that time, I was not able to answer it. So let's just do this part. So let me go to IAP. Even though this is not related to networking, but the IAP part, in the IAP part, we did not explore this part. I was waiting for this to be shown, then I can do it, because IAP has to be enabled only for HTTPS resources. So far, we never created an HTTPS resource. Most of the time, it was an HTTP resource. So now the time has come. So I thought, let's use this. So go to IAM and admin, identity aware proxy. So what we explored all this time was only this part, SSH and TCP resources. Today, we are going to explore HTTPS resources. Now, before you do it, if it is the first time you are doing this, it's going to ask you to create a OAuth consent screen. So it's going to redirect, and if the redirect, if you enter a wrong username and password, or if your account is not valid, it should show you a page saying that for more details, refer to this uh, email ID, get some support. So some configuration is required. The OAuth, basically this is going to be a OAuth authentication which is going to be enabled. Let's see how to do that. So for the first time when you do, it's going to show like this. So click on configure consent screen. It's going to open up a new browser. It's actually going to come to APIs OAuth screen. So we have seen dashboard, APIs. We have tried some credentials also. If I'm not wrong, so we created service account, we created keys. Or we will be creating few more keys. Service account. If there's a key, so we have done that. So what we need to do now is OAuth consent screen, which has not been even configured. There are two different types of user types: internal, external. Because I want you to try it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it as external, available for any trusted user with a Google account. So your app will start in a testing mode and will be available to users to add to the list of trusted users. Once your app is ready to push, you may verify your app. So we wanted to use an external user. Click on create. Now just give the name details. So this is how you will see. So they have given a preview. So this consent screen, right, when it redirects the app name you want to show, this will allow the app name too. So when you give, right, you usually you would have authenticated with your what is that, Cloud SDK on the first or the second day in our class. It would have redirected to a browser and saying that, do you want to allow Cloud SDK, all those things, right? The same thing is what you are going to configure. App name, let me call this as batch 6 awesome demo. That is my app name. So it should show app name. Do you want to allow access to this user support email? So I'm going to use, so if something goes wrong in the website, I'm going to mention, please drop a mail to this email ID. This is what I'm going to mention. So if you have any logo, you can put it. So it has to be of specific thing, but it's not a mandatory thing. So if you want, you can put a logo. The logo is going to come somewhere. It should come somewhere here, I guess. Logo. I'm not sure where the logo is going to come. Okay, that's okay. The logo is an optional one. Now, to protect you and your user, Google only allows apps using OAuth to use authorized domains. The following information will be shown to your users on the consent screen. So let's add some authorized domains. From where they can come, only then it's going to work. So some authorized domains, google.com. Then our own this thing, domain, learn GCP with Mahesh.tk. That's another domain. That's it. So if you want to give some domain links, you can give it, but I don't have anything. So terms and services, all those things, you can give it as a link. So I don't have those things. I'm just going to leave it. So what I have done, given a name which we can verify when we test the app. If any issue happens, a support email, logo you can provide it. I don't have an image to upload. The authorized domains from where they can come from. Basically, that's it. So these emails will be to Google to notify about the changes to your project. So we don't need this. Do I need these email address are for Google to notify you about the changes to your project? Is it a mandatory field? Okay, looks like a new. change. So I'm going to use the same email ID. Done, folks. This is one-time activity which you are going to do, basically a consent screen, how it shows for your app. So click on save and continue. So I can leave everything as default. So now if you add scopes, this is where you can see you can add scopes not only for GCP products, you can also add it for Google Drive products, something like G Suite products. So if I try Drive, do I see it? I can see APIs, YouTube. If I search, do I get something? Okay, 1 minute. There are 40. So via this, what and all you want to access, if you want to add it, you can also add manual scopes. I once tried it. I am not able to recollect it. So there is an option to add even Google related scopes. Like usually, right, when you access any apps where they say this app is going to access basically your Google Drive, read only access to your Google Drive, read only access to your calendars. This is the scope which you're going to do. So for our app, we don't have anything, so I'm going to leave it as default, but you can add it here. Basically, that's a good option here. So users, who are the users who needs to be tested? So for now, I'm going to add only my user, one of my user ID, meaning all of you will not be able to access this app once the setup is done. So I'm going to add a user, add this user to test the app. So learn GCP with done, save and continue. So this is a summary. So external user type, the name of the app is going to be shown like this. The user who's going to be tested is going to be this user. All good. So my stuff is configured. Now I go back to my IAM and admin identity aware proxy. Now that warning message or that error message should have been gone. Now it shows something like this. So now I have two resources available. HTTPS is going to apply for your app engine also. You can also apply to your app engine. It gives you an HTTPS URL, right? You can apply it for that. We don't want to do that. We wanted to apply to our backend service. You see, we are applying only to a backend service, not to a backend bucket. Please remember that. It is only applied for a backend service, not for a bucket. Meaning, if you have bookmarked the link of the bookmark this link, this is served from the backend service, and this one, if I use static, it is served from the bucket, right? So if I had bookmarked this link .png, I can still access this even if I have turned on IAP. So that's a key part. That is what it indicates here. So I can only add it for backend service, not for a backend bucket. So currently it is not enabled. So let me turn this on. So turn this on. Okay. It is enabled. So the error which you see here is because the app engine we have not enabled it. So we don't want for app engine because I don't have the this thing an application running, so I would have deleted everything there. But I have also done a demo on in my YouTube where on App Engine I have done the same thing. If you want, you can look into that. Just search for IAP, you should get that. So now we have our backend service configured. Now if I just click on this, let me just see the users who get access to. So the users who get access is a owner, and there are few editors. So I was under the impression that that user is going to show up here. When I gave the test users, it's not showing up. So I thought that's just a connect. That was a new feature actually they had added. So let me add a user explicitly here. Mahesh. So this is the user and the role which I'm going to give. So if it was an SSH and TCP resources, we used to give something like secure tunnel user. Now, if it's for web, right, we are going to use secure web user. IAP secure web app user. This is the role access. So that's it. Now, either these people, these are all service accounts, so definitely they cannot log in, forget it. Owner has a Gmail ID, definitely possible. And minimum, if you give somebody IAP secure web user role, they only can log in, meaning anybody not in this list will not be able to see the website, at least that Apache web server page. The static content they can see because it's been a long pending request. Google has not done that. So to enable IAP for a backend bucket, it's been a pending thing for a long time. They have not taken that into consideration. If they do that, it's going to be really good, but it's only for the service, backend service. Now, what and all we have done, how can we test it out? Very simple. Very simple. I'm going to open a new incognition window and see, it's going to take time to propagate also. So the changes. So I'll open an incognition window in my Edge browser. Try it. Okay, it is working. Oh, it is working. It was so fast. So it was so fast. I guess for you people also, it may be redirecting. So it may be redirecting. But if I do something like this, static lgwm.png, it's going to work. It's going to work. Is this what is happening, folks? For you people also. So if you use the normal URL, just the domain is going to force you to log in. Force you to log in. You see, continue to iap.googleapis.com. Now you can enter a Gmail ID. It's you can enter any Gmail ID. It's going to work. It's going to just log in, but after login, it's going to say you don't have access. But only if I enter this Gmail ID, it's going to work. Let me just show you. Maybe it may ask for an OTP. Yeah, let me just do an OTP. Because I'm doing it in an incognition window. Awesome. It is working. It is working. So any other stuffs also, say for example, dynamic, whatever has been served from the backend service, I should be able to see it. I should be able to see it. But it is not asking for me the user ID. So it's going to take a minute or two for it to show it, Kumar. So give a try, give a try. But if you try it, it's not going to work. So first it should ask, it should redirect basically. It should redirect to accounts.google.com. Then only it's going to ask, you enter it, but it's going to throw an error that you don't have access. You don't have access basically. Let me just wait for that, for it to propagate. Should take a couple of minutes. Anybody or anybody it's redirecting, folks? But Kumar, if you access the other one, just the images, it should be accessible. Yes, to the login page. Now it is. Now give any username, sorry, any email ID, but you will get denied. And you will get denied, and it will say for more information, contact that learn.gcp 2028 user. So give a try. It's going to throw an error. Yes. So meaning only one customer who is this person is going to get access. Now without me involving a developer, I secured my website. The cool feature, right? The cool feature of it. Now I wanted you to also try it. So I cannot ask all your email ID and put it. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to do a small change to my setting. What I'm going to do is add a user. By doing this, I've not tried it, but let's give a try whether it's going to work. So all authenticated users, meaning if you have not if you have logged into a Gmail account, it should basically work, is what I'm trying to do. So all authenticated users, I'm giving it to everybody, but they have to log in once. At least they should have logged into a Google account once. Only then they will get access, is what I'm trying to do here. Click on save. So you see, you are trying to make this a public resource. Adding all other things to this will make it publicly accessible anyone to other internet. If this resource contains data that is not public, make sure you prevent this. That's a warning message, but I wanted you to get access. So done, and I'm going to remove Mahesh here. Now, if you try it, it should ask again for a login. After login, it should start working. So that's what I feel. Let's just give a try. I will also try it. It's going to take a little minute for it to propagate. Again, I'll open a private window. So if I just go to google.com, it very clearly indicates I have not even signed into any Google account. Now let me give a try. It asked me to log in. Now I can use any Gmail ID to log in. Let me use this itself. Now we can try logging in, folks, and see whether it is working. Good, awesome, it is working. So, but it forced you to log in. That is a key part. So it forced you to log in. So let me give a try. I am waiting for OTP. 134282. Awesome. Thank you, folks. Yeah, it's working. It's working. But you have to log in. But if you try it in a new incognito window, it is going to ask for login, and then only it's going to come. So, but it's not available for basically your what is this? For a backend bucket. So I can show you a ticket which has been there for a long time, not fixed. So if I just search for IAP backend, IAP GCP backend bucket storage. Yeah, this is the one. Accepted. Yeah, this is the request, folks. People who have such requests, they put it to issue tracker like this. So this is official issue tracker from Google. So if you go here and see, the request was first created by somebody with aurora.tech, maybe a paid user, basically in 2018 September, saying that currently it is possible to enable identity aware proxy with load balancer with backend service to compute engine instances. However, it is not possible with backend bucket, storage bucket. It would be nice to add this feature. Now it was priority 2 created by somebody with rw@aurora. So it has been assigned, but you scroll down till the bottom, people would have told yes, +1, +1, +1, but you have not got a resolution till today, which is 17th or 18th of April. The last time somebody mentioned +1 is on April 20th. So it's almost like a close to 3 years. This is a pending request. So these requests goes to the product manager, and if they see there's a potential, they will take it and do it. The reason why I wanted to show you this part is sometimes it may not be a wrong configuration at your end. Maybe it is the feature limitation. So just wanted to show you that it is not available for storage bucket. If somebody asks you in an interview, you can very clearly say it is not available for a backend bucket. It is only available for a backend service. So is this part clear, folks? Is this part clear? What we did with now we have a login page, all those things. So all right, so good. Others folks, I get response only from very few people, so hope it's clear. Good, thank you. So now what we will do is one last part of the demo. Thank you folks for the confirmation. So we'll do one last part of the demo just to show everything is really working or not. So let me just refresh it. Going back to yesterday's demo. So now I have only one image. What if I add a new image? How it's going to be accessible? Let's just verify it. So what I will do is I'll go to a storage bucket. The bucket which we had, we have static folder. Inside this we have one object. So let me create one image or get an image. GCP icons, images, very difficult to get an image. Okay, let me take this. Okay, let me take this itself. There's no harm. So GCP, let me take something like logo. Now I upload this to this bucket. That's the new image which has been uploaded. Now, unless you don't make it public, you'll not be able to access it. So you'll not be able to access it, meaning give a try with learn gcp.tk static /logo. What was the extension? PNG. Now when I do something like this, you will get this error, folks. You'll get this error saying that it is access denied. It is access denied because you have not made the bucket as the object as public. So you have to make it. So either you can do fine grain access where each and every object you enable it as public, or you can have a uniform access. There are two types of access, right, which you can give. So uniform access, if you give it, you can do it. You just upload it, everything is going to be public by default. So if you have made it as that as a rule. So but here it's a fine grain access, so I'm going to give a public access. So the same demo is what we learned as the first class or second class. Again we are doing the same demo but in an advanced concept there. So done, this is done. Now if I go and refresh it, it should work. It should work, and you can look into the logs also. You'll come to know from where it is being served. So that's it, folks. Make sure you make the object as static. Make sure you make it as static. So that's something which I wanted to share on IAP, folks. So if the concept is clear, what we will do is we'll take a 10 minutes break. Once we come back from the break, I will not dismantle the demo. So I wanted to show you something more. So we are going to keep it for a few more, maybe for an hour more, then we'll dismantle it. So when we come back, we'll explore something on private zone. So I see very limited documentation or demos available on this. So why don't we give a try by creating a private zone? So public zone we saw yesterday itself. Private zone, what is the use of it, is what we are going to see once we come back from a break. So take a 10 minutes break and come back. Let me stop the recording.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, folks, let's look into something called as private. So this is nowhere connected to the previous demos which we have done. Totally an isolated demo. So don't even try to connect it. So it is just to show you the concept, because we saw how DNS public, Cloud DNS public zone works. I wanted to show you how the private one works because very limited resource were there. So I thought, let me give a try and show you whether it works or not. So a context for this is one of the videos which I did long back, and learned something from there, because one of the person who commented back say that there's a better solution for this. So if I just go to my website or to my YouTube channel and search for DNS, the second one, internal DNS. So it's a 2 years back video which I had put. So if I just go here, so basically, so this was a demo. It was a 2 minutes demo only to show how basically two virtual machines in the same network, but in two different regions, can ping using not the IP address, internal IP address, but using the host name. That was the whole stuff, because I remember like many of you were saying relying on the internal IP address is not a good one. Can we see something? So if I ping it using internal IP address, it works. It works. Standard, we know, because it's in the same network. Assuming the firewall rule is allowed, we should be able to do it. But what happens is if I ping it with the host name, the virtual machines were server Mumbai and server Singapore. If I do it in the other side, like in server Mumbai, if I ping server Singapore, it's going to show service not found. For service not found, the whole reason is because the entry is not going to be there in your /etc resolve conf. It's not going to be there. What is going to be there is basically an entry only for that specific. If it is created in Singapore, only your dot Asia, the region dot C custom domain. So that's going to be there. Only if you create it in the same region, you can use your host name. It's going to work. But if it's in different region, even though they are in the same VPC, you will not be able to use your host name to ping it. So that is the context here. So if you were to do it, you can edit this resolve.conf file and add it. So you resolve this, add it, add a entry for your Mumbai or for the Singapore one. It's going to start working. So add that details and it should start working. Basically, this is the simple option for it to work. Now I save that. Now if I do from server Singapore, if I do server Singapore from server Mumbai, if I do, it starts working. It starts working. The same thing I do it in my server Singapore also, to add the entry of your Mumbai details. So I'm going to add dot. Okay. So this is basically the stuff. So this is what I learned during the during my learning phase. So I did it, and one of the comment was really helpful for me to understand it, called as John, where he mentions uh, what happens is don't need to modify this. The reason is what happens if I just go to this documentation which he pasted. By default, most Linux distribution store the DSCP information in resolve.conf. The compute engines are configured to renew the DSHCP releases every 24 hours. So for instances that enable zonal DNS, the DSHCP lease expires every hour. So overrides this file, undoing any changes you might have done. So basically it's going to override. It's not going to be a permanent solution. The one which I showed in that 2 minutes video is not going to be a permanent solution. So a permanent solution is going to be nothing but our private DNS. I'm not sure at that time it was there or not. So but this is the private zone DNS option is the one which is going to be a good choice. So let me recreate this demo, not that 2 minutes part. So if you want, you can look into this at a later point of time. It may not be useful. That's the reason I'm not doing that demo. So we will have a better solution. So the better solution is create two VMs, and I'll show you how it works. So I'm going to use the same option, server Singapore, server Mumbai, something like that. So server SG in Singapore, F1 micro. I wanted to use basically the network which we created the first time when we created the custom VPC. I'm going to use that, and we are not a great fan of external IP address. It is turned off. Turned off. Create a VM. This virtual machine has no role to play here, folks. The web server. This is our unmanaged instance group. So we will use this for a few minutes, but this demo we are not going to use it. So let me wait for the instance to come up. Yes, it has come up. No external IP address. Now let me create one more. Let me see whether I can do it in Mumbai. The Mumbai region is looking, it looks like it is back with the working state. Do I have a VPC subnetwork? Yes, I have it. Okay. Let me just call this as Server Mumbai. Server Mumbai. Done. I'll create one more server, folks, called as Server SG2. Just to show you some more concept. Create a similar one. That's it. Create. Now let me SSH into SG and one more machine, which is SG2 first. So if you see, all are in the same VPC. These two are in the same region, also in the same zone. This one is in a different region altogether. So let me first SSH into these two machines. So I can do host name minus A or host name minus F, fully qualified name. Basically, whatever the option you can give it. So, but if you just do host name, it's going to just give this one. So both are going to be the same thing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ping with the host name. It works. It works. And this is the internal DNS format, folks. Name, the host name or the instance name, basically dot the region, sorry, dot the zone, dot C. C is going to be always there, constant value, dot your project ID dot internal. This is your internal DNS, which is going to be created automatically. So similarly, if I do ping server SG2, sorry, SG, is going to work for me. The whole reason is because of that internal resolution. So if I see etc resolve, if I do this one more time, you see the entries are there. So anything with respect to my so the entries which are added are Asia only Asia, Southeast Asia, Southeast one, Singapore only it's added. That's the reason only those things works. Let me give this one looks interesting. Let me give a try. Why don't I try it? Server Mumbai. Okay, it does not work. Was that the name which I gave? Yes. So it does not work. So it does not work. The solution is, as I mentioned in the video, add the entry. Basically, you have to add an entry like Asia-Southeast, sorry, South 1 A, and then it's going to work. I'm not going to do that part of the demo because it's going to get override. So this file content is going to be overridden every 1 hour or 24 hours based on what is that mentioned. So we are going to find a better solution. What is that better solution? Let me remove this VM. I don't need it. I just wanted to show that if it's in the same region, it's going to work without you doing anything. Mangesh, I had already mentioned when to use unmanaged instance group couple of times, I guess. So I'll repeat it towards the end one more time. Let me delete that VM. I don't need that. I'm switching into my Mumbai machine also. Okay. So if I do ping, if I give the fully qualified name also, it will, fully qualified name, if I give it works. Okay, fully qualified name works. So there's a new change which they have done. So fully qualified name works, but if I just give the host name, it does not work. It does not work. Simple, straightforward solution is because of this entry, I guess, which was not there in the previously. So this entry dot C, this is the one which is making it work. So one option, use directly the internal domain name and do it. So it's going to be a little big. If you want to do it, you can do it. No extra setup. It's going to work automatically. So the fully qualified name works, but if you just use the host name, it's not going to work. Now what we will do is we'll create a internal domain for ourselves for us to access different servers is what I wanted to show. For that, I will go to my DNS. We already have one entry, but it is of type public. So let me create one more zone, which is a private zone. Private zone. So I'll call this as, I can give anything, folks, because this is private, right? I can even give it as Google -com. And my domain, I can also have it as google.com. So it's all internal. I will not have any issues. Okay. So I'm going to give it as google.com. It's private. Because it is private, it's going to ask the VPC details. VPC details. My VMs are in batch 6 VPC. I'm going to use batch 6, the network. This is the network which I'm going to use. That's it. So I'm going to give my domain is going to have google.com, basically internal. It's basically internal, so don't get confused. So the command line equivalent looks like something like this. The key part is the visibility. Yesterday it was public, now it is private. So let me create this. The main highlight is the network, and it is a private zone. Create it. Now what I'm going to add is I'm going to add two A records. So I'll call this as mumbai.google.com, and the A record is going to be the internal IP address. So the internal IP address of Mumbai. So that's it. Create one more A record, which I'll call it as SG, which I'll copy it here. Now create it. Done. So I have my A records created. Now if I go to my virtual machines and just do mumbai.google.com, I should be able to, from server SG, I should be able to see it. They get resolved to this IP basically. So little easier, instead of using a very broad name, the fully qualified name, you can use this option. Let me just show you whether it works or not. So I'm in my Mumbai machine. I'm going to use pingsg.google.com. It works. It works. And if you just do ping this one, the ending with one, so if I just put IP space A, so this is the IP address. This is the IP address which I'm able to ping. So little easier name to ping basically. Now if I do the same thing, ping Mumbai dot google.com, it also works. So this is another way. So the entry is not going to be overridden, all those things. So I'm going to use a private zone. Things works. So this is something which I wanted to share because it was very difficult to get some demo on this part. So at least I thought, let me give you some idea how this works. It could be used internally so that you can use anything of your choice. So if you have a domain and you want to call your stuffs internally, you can also use the same option. Now I used even google.com, so it's internal right at the end. So it does not matter, you can use whatever you want, easy for you to access it basically. So is this part clear, folks? The internal or the private zone which you get in this thing. So now you are using all domain names, you are not relying on an IP address. Now you can make this internal IP address as static. That's another thing which you can do, make it as static. So even if you delete the VM, you can create a new VM using the static IP address, internal static IP address, and it's going to continue working. So you should not have any issue remembering the IP address or anything. So but with this we can ping server dot using this thing. I don't think so. Let me just see. So if I do server hyphen sg, it does not still work with just the host name. With just the host name, it's not going to work, Mangesh. So you are going to give a new name and then do it. So or make sure you can have something like okay, try this. So what I will do is, instead of this, I can call this as server hyphen Mumbai, something like this, with the same host name. So I have changed it. It goes in hand with the host names. Now you can do something like with your specific this thing, with your specific uh, internal domain which you have done. So this is something which you can try. This is another option. So but directly with the host name is not possible. Maybe it is possible with some more networking stuff. With what I learned, this is something which works, and then also an option to see how private DNS works, private zone DNS works, Mangesh. Hope that answers your question. So that's a small demo which I wanted to show, which was not related here, but since we finished learning about the DNS, I thought I'll show you this part. So if I just go to my DNS, you will have two DNS entries. One is a private one, the other one is a public one. So if you don't need it, you can delete it. Okay, I have to, the way you delete it is basically first delete the records. Delete the records and then only delete the this thing. Now delete the zone. Now good. So let me also delete these VMs. I don't need it. It was only created for this demonstration purpose. Now, slightly out of topic, but we just came in and learned it. Now let's look into the next important feature. We have a very cool website We have also done authentication, enabled everything. Good. Let's assume somebody wants to bring down this website, but by not hacking into it, but by putting a huge load and bring it down. So that way, what is going to happen if a real user comes, not a bad guy, a real user comes and tries to access this website, the website is going to say service unavailable, 5xx error or 503 error, service unavailable. So simple example, just an hypothetical example, folks. So assume two competitors, Amazon.com, co.in. Hope that's the web URL name. Let me just check it. I don't remember the URL. So Amazon.in. So let me just take only the example in an Indian market. So I have Amazon.in and I have Flipkart. I don't remember the URL. Let me get the URL. Flipkart.com. So it is .com. So these are two websites for e-commerce. Now what I will do is just an hypothetical scenario, folks. I wanted to bring down one of the servers. Assume Flipkart wants to bring down Amazon.com, Amazon.in, this thing. So basically, same product sold in both of this e-commerce website. So if one website is down, automatically the customer will go to the other website. Standard option. They are not going to even have a second thought. So how do I force somebody to come here? Assume the price is the same. It's a phone. It's a phone. It's something like 10,000 rupees. Both the websites are having the same thing. But Flipkart wants to have more sales of this. So what we can do is basically what people do is either you hack the system, which may look more difficult. The second thing is put a huge load on Amazon.in in such a way that no users, real users. Now this huge load is all automated one. So by a automated script distributed from different parts of the world, you send a huge request so that the system thinks these are real users and start serving it. And every website will have a capacity, right? So assume it is running on a virtual machine or a groups of virtual machine kind of a stuff. You have put a huge load in such a way that the MIG concept itself, if you take, it has scaled to the maximum. So something like 50 servers is what it can scale, which can serve around 50,000 requests. Yes, it is doing that currently. Now this is the highest, this is the max it can serve. Now all this 50,000 request is like a bot or an automated script which is doing it. So this is only to bring down your service. Now if a new service request comes from a user like user@gmail.com who logs into Amazon, tries to log in, it instead of logging in a successful page shows 503 error, service unavailable is what you are going to get it. So the moment and you are desperately in need of a new phone, this user, what he will do, simply he will come to flipkart.com and buy it. So what you did basically was, for a legal user or a real user, you denied the service. And this denial was because of a huge load which is already served. So this is basically your DDoS attack in a simple concept, folks, in a simple manner. So DDoS, and it's previously it was from a specific IP. It was denial of service. Now people use concept called as distributed denial of attack, distributed denial of service. So it's not coming from one, because if it's only coming from one IP, it's easy to block it. So now they distribute it from various parts of the world and try to bring down the service. So to avoid doing this, every cloud provider will have a service offering. The offering which Google provides is basically called as Cloud Armor. So Cloud Armor, where It tries to protect your website from any DDoS attack, distributed denial of service, and it has some built-in features automatically. The moment you turn on DDoS or this Cloud Armor, what happens is basically some standard hacks people do, like SQL injection, cross-site scripting. All those things comes automatically built in, so you don't need to do anything extra. So this is usually applied at layer 7. Layer 7. In simple terms, I usually call Cloud Armor as the firewall rule for your layer 7. So the firewall rules which we have been putting all these days is layer 3, layer 4. At that layer only we put. But if you want to do it at layer 7, the application layer, the smartest layer, uh, the one which you get is going to be called as Cloud Armor. People usually call this as web application firewall, WAF, web application firewalls. That is something similar what you get it in Cloud Armor. So this is at a layer 7. So we'll try to understand this by doing a demonstration. So let's see some couple of images, which again I got it from the official YouTube from Google. So it was a good image. So I took a screenshot. So how it looks like, let's see. So Cloud Armor in action. Basically, you have a setup, manage instance group, basically. So turned on, auto scaling is turned on. So there is a region in US West. The IP range is 10.220.240.0. The thing class A, and you have another region in London, maybe with a different CIDR range, class C, and there is a specific firewall rule. This is nothing but the load balancers firewall which you have put, only allowing the load balancer, nothing else. So this is the setup. Now you have a load balancer provision, global load balancer provision. For a minute, let's assume this one. Highlighter. Okay. For a minute, don't think there is something like this. Normal stuff. Load balancer. If the request comes from California, it's going to go to US West. If it comes from London, it's going to go to the Europe, based on the proximity. Straightforward option. But if there is a hacker who's trying to bring down the service by doing a DDoS attack, what we do is we try to, instead of sending the request till the end, till the back end, overloading it, not making it serve the real request from a real user, what you do is basically block him at the load balancer level itself. Block it here itself. So if you were to block that hacker or the bad guy at the load balancer itself, you should definitely put a load or a firewall, some kind of a restriction at your layer 7 only. So that's where a Cloud Armor comes into picture, where you put a firewall rule for your load balancer. So in simple terms, I call this way. So firewall rule to a load balancer is nothing but your Cloud Armor. So you put a rule saying that only if the IPs are from my corporate, so which is going to be like 10.1.0./24, which Maya has, I'm going to send it to the next it's going to be allowed in my load balancer. It's going to then send it to my backend service. If it is anything apart from that, I'm going to block directly at my load balancer level itself. Simple. So you see the source is Maya's is this one. It hits your destination. That's the first connection. The connection gets terminated because it's a proxy load balancer. A new connection gets created and it comes, and the source is going to be 10 to 130 or 35. Usually 130 or 35 is the usual range. So it takes that and goes to your destination, which is one of these or this one. So you have a cloud DNS which gets resolved, all those things. So basically, if you take all the concepts which we learned, so there's an app called as myapp.com. The load balancer IP address is 120.1.1.1. So this is the one. The moment they hit, the resolution happens. But before sending the request to the next level, the Cloud Armor pitches and sees whether this has to be blocked or should it be sent, basically. So that's the entire stuff here. So there's one more slide which I have, then we will do a demo. Something very similar, allowing only corporate users. Say for example, the same logic which you put. So where you say in your Cloud Armor a specific rule. So Cloud Armor comes in two different styles, where you can have some advanced configurations where you put some patterns, all those things. Or the simplistic option is just put a specific CIDR range and either allow it or block it. So here what you're going to say is all my corporate account. So meaning when you log into your corporate laptop, get into a VPN, your IP address is going to change. So only if the request is coming from that specific CIDR range 50.1.0.0/16, that is my corporate laptop users, only allow them. Anything apart from that, don't even allow them. So this is what we do basically, which can be leveraged easily by our Cloud Armor. So anyway, we have our load balancer. Let's try to see whether we can create a Cloud Armor for this using our free trial account first. So I wanted to show you with free trial account first. Then I will jump into a paid account where I will say why a paid account is required. So you may not need to do this demo, folks, because in very simple terms, Cloud Armor does not work in a free trial account. So basically, you just need to watch this demo. That's it. You cannot try it if you don't have a paid account. So, but I'll first show the demo in a free trial account and show you the error which it comes. And also we'll try to do something with a quota. How do you increase a quota so that you get used to how to play around with quotas when you get a paid account. Okay. So what we will do is, this is the stuff. Now, where is my Cloud Armor available? So it's going to be under network security. SSL policy we already finished. Cloud Armor. So if I go to Cloud Armor, so I get security policy lets you control your access to your Google Cloud Platform resource at your edge. So you cannot use this security policy for a non-CDN HTTP load balancer. So any reason why it is only for why CDN based load balancers are not allowed? Any reasons why, folks? It mentions it is only for non-CDN HTTPS load balancer, not for, meaning it is not applicable for, so the policies is not applicable for CDN based. Any reason why? Any reason why you think it is not applicable or it's not available there? Slow down the downloads? No. What's the whole concept of Cloud Armor, folks? To avoid any DDoS attack, right? DDoS attack. Let me just take an example here. So I have a website. www.learngcp with mahesh.tk. So /login, something like this. This is going to be a dynamic page which is served from a backend service. Backend service, which is nothing but what? MIGs or unmanaged instance group. Basically VMs, right? And it's a dynamic content. There's no concept of caching here. So I have to serve it always. Now I have something like static. Where all static contents are going to be served. So which is going to be from a backend bucket, which is nothing but a GCS bucket. Now I have already turned on CDN. Now what is going to happen? Meaning a hacker sends if the hacker sends n number of requests to assume it's a video itself, forget about this thing image, it's a video. he gets the URL and he sends n number of times. Nothing is going to happen to my backend system. Why? Because CDN is enabled. So it's not going to even hit my backend, which is Google Cloud Storage in this case. So it's not going to impact my backend. Everything is going to be served from the CDN point of presence. So it's already cached. It's already cached. So even if we send 10,000 requests, I don't care because everything is served from the cache. So if it is distributed, it's going to serve from the different CDN point of presence. So there's no point in having a armor, cloud armor kind of stuff for a backend bucket, which is going to leverage CDN. So that's the reason they have not even enabled it. So what should not go down is my virtual machines or my Kubernetes cluster, which is going to serve dynamic content. I should not overload that because this is dynamic. I cannot cache it. So I hope the concept is clear, folks. Why it is not available for CDN based load balance. It's only for non-CDN, basically dynamic content. So if it's static content, it's already cached across. There are n number of CDN point of presence. So why do you need to again have anything extra there? So anyway, it's going to serve from the cache. Yesterday we saw, right? It's only going to hit once the backend till the cache expires. It's going to be there in your. It's going to be served from your CDN point of presence. Hope that's clear, folks. Why it is not available? Yeah. So now let me create a policy. So I'll call this as batch 6. So looks very much similar to your firewall rule kind of a configuration only. So you have deny and allow. By default, there is a default rule is deny everything. So that's deny. So what I will do is basically I want to have a allow because the default. Let me just do first allow. Let me just do allow or let me do deny only, folks. Deny somehow, and I'm going to use the most simplistic demo here. So I wanted to deny. What is that? By default, I want to deny, and I add one more rule. I want to add one more rule, and there are two different modes: basic and advanced mode. Basic is going to be very, very basic. Just put a cider range and block it or allow it. Advanced mode, you write some kind of a script, kind of a stuff. All those things. I have also not tried it, so it's an advanced one. So for us, it's not required for now. So we are just exploring for the first time. So now I'll put something like 0.0.0.0/0. Now what I'm going to say, I'm opening it to the entire world, and I'm going to give a priority like 10,000. This is my first rule, and you'll be charged per rule. Every rule is going to be a charge. Now that's the first rule. Now you can see the preview what is happening. So by default, it's deny, and I'm allowing everybody, or if you want to change it, maybe any IP which is starting with 130, you want to allow it. 8/8, yeah, something like this. So if the match is like this, allow it now. And I also found there's a hacker who's coming from a specific range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deny him, and it is coming from something like 100.0. So, and I'll make a priority like, I cannot have the same priority, folks. I cannot have the same priority. If I put 1,000, it says priority is already is used. So I have to give one priority per rule. So I have given a rule like this. By default, deny everybody. Specifically, if the request comes from this, deny it. And only if it is from 130 series, allow it. Something of this sort. Two rules, basically. Now, I apply it to a target. To which load balancer you have to apply it is what you are going to apply it now. So click on the target. Now you see basically backend service. You don't see the backend bucket because that is a CDN based. So what you get is only a non-CDN based backend, which is our backend service. That's it. So you have the policy, you have your backend service configured. What else? What else is required? So it's an optional step. I'm not going to do this part. So click on done. Look at the command line equivalent. So it's going to generate these many configurations. First, create a policy, couple of policies, and have your cloud armor. So Gcloud, Gcloud, these are your policies which you create and update it. Basically, that's what it indicates. Now let's go ahead and create our policy. So there are three rules basically. So it is getting created. Now I get an error. I know it is going to get error, and still I did it only because I wanted to show you something with respect to a real implementation when you are going to do when you get into a project. So I get an error called as security policy exceeded, limit is 0 globally. So what it means is there's some quota which they have set. I'm just going to copy this. So if I go to armor, if I go to my IAM and admin quotas, search for that quota which came. So if I search for that quota name, I'll get to know this security policies. So what is the quota which they give for a free trial account? It is 0, which is a clear indication. So they wanted you not to use this feature in a free trial account. So you need to have a paid account. So assume it is a paid account for a minute. If you have something like this, so I'm not sure whether it's in a paid account, it's going to be 10 if I'm not wrong. So assume it is a paid account. How do you do this? Maybe you want more. How will you do basically is in real implementation, you select this specific metrics, click on edit quota. So you mention what is the current, what's the new limit you want. Currently it is 0. I wanted to make it as 20, just an example. Exploring cloud armor for a production implementation. Just give an example this thing. So implementation, that's it. Click on, before you click on done, because I'm using this Gmail ID, this is the Gmail ID. If I go to my email, there's nothing, all are red. Now if I click on done and select the service, what is that? Because it applies to compute engine. So click on next, give the name, email ID, and the phone number. So submit a request. Now once you submit a request, it's going to send, this is the tracking ID. You can look into it. So if you are using a paid account and if your account has been used for a longer time, there's a very nice billing history. In next 2 minutes or 3 minutes, your quota would be increased. But since I use a free trial account, I come to my email box. Let me see whether I have got an email. Yes, I have got an email. So where it shows, thank you for contacting, blah, blah, blah. You have increased for, typically takes 2 business days to process. Standard is going to be 2 business days. Okay. But they do it quickly. If it's an urgent one, you can raise a request. The support can do. And immediately I also got one more email, the second email. So I have 2 emails. The second email is, please be aware that free trial account, this is the response which I have got automatically, have limited compute duration. We understand you would like to have more quota. That would be great. We would love to help you. Before we can move further, you need to upgrade to a paid account. So this is what you will get if it's you. If you try to do it also in a free trial account, it's going to say you have to upgrade it. upgrade it. But this is a process. So this is a process to update your quota. You will definitely come this with this kind of a scenario where you wanted to have a increased quota and all. So I just wanted to show you once at least how do you do it in real implementation. May not be a question because these are some real implementations, right? They may not ask it in the exam. So this is how you do that stuff, and it is very clear you cannot do it with a free trial account. So we cannot do it. So but what I have is I have a small free trial account, so which I keep activating, deactivating. So I'm going to use that and show you this demonstration. So I have to recreate everything there. So we will quickly do a simple demonstration where we'll have a virtual machine, have an Apache web server installed very fast. We are going to do it. So may not take all the best principles. We have already seen how to do it. It's a different account. So I will create an Apache web server, make it as an unmanaged instance group, attach a load balancer, and quickly enable Cloud Armor and block certain IPs, open certain IPs is what we are going to do. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. So in free trial, it is not going to be possible. So okay, this is my paid account. So I have named it as Cloud Armor Demo. So I'm going to first create a virtual machine. So a virtual machine quickly, and then we will create basically. So I'll call this as Cloud Armor Demo. So Singapore. Just let it be like this. Then for a minute, right? I'll just show you some concepts. Then we will slowly move into the stuffs. Maybe we may go back little basic and we'll come back again to an advanced one. So I will enable HTTP traffic. The first kind of demos which we did, we are going back to that because this one is going to create a layer 3 or layer 4 firewall rules. Okay, so done. Now I will have a small startup script, apt update, apt install -y Apache 2, this one. And instead of having that boring screen, right, why don't we do something little differently? Echo, I'm just going to add a HTML tag which is going to look bigger, and the content is going to be shown as Cloud Armor Demo. This is the content which I'll be writing into /where/www/html. This is the location where that HTML is served, right? So I'm overriding the content to this one. This is my script. So the last line is optional, folks, but since we have seen many times the same Apache web server, I thought let me do something different. That's it. So in the startup script itself, we are going to override it. Now we will use for a minute external IP address. I don't have NAT or anything in this, so I'm going to use external IP address only. So going back to our beginning days, so it's using I can use, okay, I have a different VPC Cloud Armor. This is going to be the CIDR range, and I will go with external IP address for now. Okay, standard VM creation, nothing else, with firewall rules, all those things. Now click on create. We have not even come to the demo part, but we have just done created a VM. That's it. So which is having an external IP address and a hyperlink is also there. So let me open this in an incognito window. If things are all fine, it should show not this one, something like this. Now let me know whether folks you are able to also see this output. So you see that Do you see it, folks? Yeah. So now a small activity which all of us are going to do. My requirement is this website should be accessible from your laptop, but not from your Cloud Shell. Meaning, if I just open up my Cloud Shell, most of our Cloud Shell is going to have either 34 dot something, the IP. We did sometimes this one, something very similar. So if everybody can launch your Cloud Shell and help me out with the small command IP5, just to have some small interaction. So if you can run this command in your this thing and let me know, not the complete IP, what is the CIDR range? Is it 35 or 34 or something else? Something else. Just let me know. We will block this range. Meaning, if I do curl, currently it shows me the output. You can also try it in your Cloud Shell. It should work. It should work. Now the plan is, what we are going to do is block accessing this website from Cloud Shell, from all of our Cloud Shell, and allow it in allow it from our laptops. This is the goal which we are going to do, folks. So can you access it in your Cloud Shell also, folks, using the curl command? Because we don't have a UI, we are using curl command. Are you able to access it? Cloud Shell may take longer time to provision. Folks, you're there. Are you able to access it? Okay, check it out. I'm just going to give a couple of minutes. Okay, usually the Cloud Shell takes time to launch. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. Everything should be working even in Cloud Shell, but let me know the IP, the first octet, the first 8-bit. Is it 34 or 35? What is your IP of your Cloud Shell? And we are going to block it. We are going to block it. Anybody, is it working? Okay, no need to give the complete IP, Mangesh. So 34, yours is 34. Anybody else having apart from 35 or 34 range? Others wanted to give a try? Okay, no response. So what I will do is I need to block it in from Cloud Shell. So meaning it should not work. It should not show me the output. I want to block it. How will I block it, folks? It's just running on a virtual machine. How will I block this? So when I access it from Cloud Shell, it should block. From my access from my laptop, it should work. How will I do it, folks? Very basic networking question. What should I do? What should I do, folks? I wanted you to answer it. Deny the subnet. So deny it. Create a rule which denies this. Basically, simple. So I'm going to use two CIDR ranges: 34.0.0.0/8 and 35.0, something of that sort, so that at least some of our Cloud Shell will be blocked. Others, assuming that our laptops IPs are not basically in this range, so mine is not going to be in that range. My IP address is something this one, so definitely not in that range, so I should be able to access it. Now what I will do is, okay, everybody's is 35 or 34. Now what I will do is, as Anil Kumar mentioned, we are going to create a firewall rule. Simple layer 3 or layer 4 firewall rule. So I'm going to basically go to my firewall rule. Now there's only one firewall. To this one, if you see, there are two firewall rules which is there. Currently I am allowing anybody to access port 80 0.0.0 to anybody to access it. So what I'm going to do is edit this firewall rule, instead of 0.0.0, what I will do is I have to first deny, or okay, let me leave it like this. Let me leave everybody open. But what I will do is I'll create one more firewall rule with the same priority, only blocking our Cloud Shell. Block Cloud Shell. So this is in VPC Cloud Armor. Priority is same, incoming request, but deny it. Target, either I can apply to a specific target or I can apply to all the instance in the network. I'll apply to all the instance in the network. The source IP, as per the information which I've got, I'm going to put 334.0, this one, /8, then 35.0.0.0/8. Two ranges, blocking it. I'm going to deny all. Or if you want to specifically block something also, it's okay. But let me make it as deny all. Or if you want, you just put only port 80. Your choice, how you want to do. So done. So a deny rule, because most of the time we were always doing allow, right? We thought I thought let me do deny once. So done. Create it. Now there are two firewall rules which has been created. One is to, if I put a filter, VPC, only three firewall rules, all are same priorities. So but the one is deny. Now see whether you can access the website, folks, in your laptop. It is working in my laptop. Let me see whether it works in my Cloud Shell. It does not work. Am I correct to say this? It's not working even in your Cloud Shell. For people who open their Cloud Shell and tried this IP, it will not work. It's blocked from their Cloud Shell. If your Cloud Shell IP is different, folks, not in 34 dot or 35 dot, it may work. But for people who mention their Cloud Shell is like Mangesh, Vivek, they mention it is in 34 or 35, for them it should be blocked. Is it blocked, folks? It is blocked. It's not giving a response. Basically, it's blocked. Basically, it is blocked. Now, this is how you do if it's a, yes, thank you, Vivek. So, this is how you do it if it's a individual virtual machine. Now, we have learned advanced concepts like, so why don't we apply Cloud Armor concept here and see how we can block the same thing and see what is going to happen. See what's going to happen. Now, Control C, go back. Now I'm going to keep this virtual machine with the external IP address like this. I'm going to keep this with still these things kept like that only. Now what I'm going to do is make this virtual machine an unmanaged instance group, add it to a load balancer, then use Cloud Armor, because I cannot attach Cloud Armor to an individual virtual machine. So if you just go try Cloud Armor also, security Cloud Armor, you will not see any option for your target. Currently there's no target itself because there's no load balancer. So we need to create a load balancer. So to create a load balancer, I have to make it as an unmanaged instance group. So I'm going to create an unmanaged instance group. So when should you use unmanaged instance group is basically when you have uneven machines, but you just need a load balancing between them. That's where you use it. basically from an on-prem to GCP migration, when you do, you will definitely have uneven systems, but you need just a load balancer. That's where you use it. So Mangesh had this question. So uneven machine types is where you will use unmanaged instance group. If it's an even machine types, identical machines, you'll always use MIG. Scaling, auto scaling, auto healing, all those features you get it. In unmanaged instance group, you don't get anything except just balancing the load balancing, nothing else. So let me go to my instance group. So instance group, okay, this was something which I created long back. I'm just going to delete it. Okay, so if I create an instance group, there are three different options. We already finished MIG, which can support auto healing, auto scaling, auto upgrade, deploy multiple zone deployment, load balancing, but unmanaged only supports load balancing, nothing else. So click on this. Let me create something like armor unmanaged instance group, and yesterday itself we know it is a zonal resource, so I'll make sure I select Singapore A, select this thing, so I get an instance. It's a zonal resource. Create it. So unmanaged instance group is created. I'm just going to quickly create a load balancer. So go create a load balancer. So create a load balancer. Armor demo. Backend service. Backend service. Armor. Instance group. Select that. Port 80 is what it listens on. Remaining stuffs I'm going to leave it as default. So health check important. We know that. Let's create a health check. Call this as health check. Exactly what we did yesterday. Health check port 80. Port 80 meaning, so either anyway you have made it as 0.0.0, that is going to take it's going to start working with that option because you have kept it open to the world, right? The firewall route. So so you don't need to create one more firewall rule. So is that part clear, folks? So one of the CIDR range is going to be that 35 dot something or 130 dot something, the health check probe. You don't need to add it in this because we have a default firewall rule which allows basically that range uh, should be, oh, maybe we may have an issue. Yes, we may have an issue. Let me just go back to the documentation. We may have an issue with our health check probes. What is that? If I go to my health check, we put a little broad IPs. Health check. We'll have issues. What is that? Let me tell you. Okay. So for load balancer, source IP should be this. Now we have blocked this one, right? In our firewall rule, we may have issues. So maybe I have to remove that firewall rule, the deny rule. So, or explicitly allow these things. Only let's, instead of deleting that firewall rule to deny it, let's explicitly make sure, let's allow these things. Okay. Let's allow these things so that it's going to work for us. So I have to create a firewall rule. I'll create it on port 80. So submit. So just selected our unmanaged instance group, created a health check. Cloud Armor policy, you can create it here also, or you can create later. We'll create it later. So click on create, host and path rules, giving default. I just need one HTTP front end. So we have already seen how certificate works, all those things. I'm going to leave everything as default. So basically I want to quickly create a load balancer. That's it, nothing else. So click on create. By the time this gets created, what I will do is I will also create a firewall rule, maybe slightly a higher priority to allow only those health check probes to work. So for that, I'll go to firewalls. Why I need that? Because I have put a range here, 35.0. So this is going to block my health check probe. It's not going to work. So to do that, what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to create a firewall rule with a slightly higher priority, allow health check probe on VPC armor, cloud armor, this thing. So it's going to be incoming. Let me apply for everything for now. We know the best way is to put it with target yesterday. So we had learned it. So this is the range. And there is one more range, this one. And this is what you were seeing basically in that article, folks. So if I just go back to my slide, you see this, folks, the source. This is where you put it in your firewall rule. So usually it is going to be either 130.210.0.0 something or 35.191. So either one of them. So this is the same IP which they had mentioned it there. Just connecting your documentation and your screenshots. Done. I wanted to allow only port 80, nothing else. It's an allow. And it's going to be slightly a higher priority, so it should work for us basically. So let me click on create. Good, the firewall rule is created. Now let me go back to my load balancer to check whether the IP is provisioned or not. Advanced menu, open in an incognition window, not yet. So it's going to take a little time for it to come up. What we'll do is we'll use that time to take a break. So we'll take a 10 minutes break. Once we come back, I'll just put the IP also in your chat. Give a try. Once it comes, what we will do is we'll do the same logic of blocking it from our cloud shell and allowing it to access from our laptop. And we'll see the advantage over the other, doing it an individual virtual machine and doing it at a load balancer level. Okay, so we'll see that. Let me see whether it works. No. Okay, it is working. So it is working, but once we'll take a break and come back, because if I access this from my cloud shell, it is going to work. It's going to work. So we'll see how we will block it with the help of a cloud armor, not from the firewall rule, because we cannot do this. Is a load balancer IP. I cannot do anything with my layer 4 or layer 3. So I have to do something better, which is going to be layer 7. We'll see how to do it after taking a 10 minutes break. So take a break and come back. So let me stop the recording.
This conference will now be recorded.
So before the break, what we did was created a load balancer, and the load balancer IP address is what has been seen on the screen, and I've also pinged you the link. Now you are able to access it from your laptop and from your cloud shell. What does this indicate, folks? So what does this indicate? So this is my virtual machine's IP. It does not work because of the firewall restriction which I put. But if I use the other one, which is the load balancer's IP address, I can access it. So what this clearly indicates is you cannot put a, you cannot block, if say for example, if the IP, you cannot put any restriction to your load balancer using your layer 3 or layer 4 firewall rules. You cannot put it. You cannot put it. So that is a clear indication. So you need to have a product like Armor, which is going to be applied at layer 7 and block it. So that is what we are going to do. So till here is the demo part clear, folks. So you saw it by yourself. So it can be accessible if you directly use the load balancers IP. And if you were to block it also, you cannot block anything here. It's not going to apply basically. So it's not going to apply. So is this part clear till here, folks? Only if it is clear, we'll go to the next part where we will try to block it using a layer 7 load balancer. So layer 7 firewall rule, which is Cloud Armor in our case. Thank you, Mangesh. So for confirming it is clear. Now, thank you, Kumar. So now what we will do is, I'm going to create an Armor. So Cloud Armor. So this is a paid account. So it should work. So there's nothing currently. Let me create a policy. The policy, we are going to use the same logic, folks. Meaning, I'll go to my firewall rules, get those firewall rules. And okay, let me make it before. Yeah. Before I do this, right, I'll go to my firewall rules just to make it. The firewall rules has no role to play here. So what I'm going to do is basically VPC. Now this is for the probe. This one was the block. I'm going to remove this block. I'm going to remove this block and see what's going to happen. I'm removing the firewall because I understood that this firewall rule is of no use if it's coming from the load balancer. So that's the reason I'm deleting it. Meaning now if I go to my cloud shell, it is going to work from both the IPs. Load balancer works from my directly from my virtual machine also works because I've removed the firewall route. Now what I'm going to do is I'm also going to delete this firewall rule. So I'm going to delete this firewall rule. So if I delete this firewall rule, what is going to happen, folks? The one which I have selected. If I delete it, what is going to happen? Any thoughts? So if I delete the last firewall rule which I have shown, what is going to happen? Any thoughts, folks? We're able to, can you access it from your cloud shell? Can you access it from your load balancer? What is going to happen? It will not from every IP will not be accessible from cloud shell. So access will be removed from your load balancer. If I delete this firewall rule, what is going to happen? Very clear. If I remove this from cloud shell, it is not going to work. But if I delete it from my delete it from load balancer, can I access it, folks? I'm deleting it. One response. Will I be able to access it if I why it is coming back again? Yeah. Will it be working if I will I be able to access it from my load balancer IP address? Okay, so the source IPs are basically are there, so it should be accessible. So Anil Kumar and Mangesh and Kumar got it correctly. So it is going to be accessible basically. Let me show you why. So, and it has nothing to do with this firewall rule, folks. Please remember, it is nothing to do with the firewall rule. So what is my IP address of my load balancer? This is my IP address. And what is the source IPs which I have done? Is there any connect? No. Please make it clear. It is nothing to do with the this thing. This is for health check. This is only for the health check, not explicitly for your load balancer to be allowed. Okay, Mangesh, is that clear? Because you mentioned source IP, so it is not because of source IP. Okay, so totally two different IPs. Now let's verify whether it's going to really work from my load balancer or not. If I directly access via my load balancer, now my load balancer ends with 30, works. If I access it from my this thing, very much sure it's not going to be accessible. So basically this is coming from your layer 7, and it's very clear you cannot put any firewall rule, layer 3 or layer 4 load firewall rules. You cannot apply it to your load balancer. It is not possible. It is very, very clear. Now what I will do is, what we tried it at our firewall level at layer 3 or 4, we are going to apply the same concept at our layer 7, so that any request from our cloud shell, we can treat our cloud shell as the bad guys. So we are going to block that. So how? With the help of our armor. So go to armor, create a policy, call this as armor L7FW firewall. Is it L? Yeah, L7. So first and the foremost rule, what I'm going to do is, I'll say allow everybody. That's the first rule, allow everybody. The second rule which I'm going to say is block all cloud shell. What are the cloud shell IPs which we have seen? 35.0.0.0/8. I'm not sure whether I can put a comma. Use comma to separate the IP range. Okay. 34.0.0.0/8. And I'm going to deny it. And for them, I wanted to show a totally different message, divert the bad guys. So I want to show something like bad gateway. This is what they are going to get from your cloud shell. When you try to access, you are going to get 502 error. It's going to make them think it's hello, is it something wrong with our system, or is it something wrong with the server? So just to give them that different feel, I'm going to give this message. So I'm going to make it as 1000. Done. So I have two rules. One, the default allow everybody, and another rule to block specific IPs, basically our cloud shell IPs. Done. Now the most important part, apply it to a target. Now I will have a target because I have a load balancer already created. It shows up my backend service which was configured. Done. Now this is an optional feature. Cloud Armor Adaptive Protection helps you protect backend service from layer 7 DDoS attack by learning normal pattern. There is some kind of a learning which I have not explored. So what we are using is a very simplistic basic version, rule based stuff. There's some advanced stuff which I have not explored it because the limitation which I have. So I have not used this paid account fully. So I have not seen it. So once I explore, I'll definitely share something via the public YouTube channel. So I'm just going to leave it as default. That's it. So give a name, add some rules, two rules, and applied it to a backend service. Now let me go ahead and create it. So if I click on command line, it should show basically two rules and updating your policy. So let's click on create. Because it's a paid account, I should not have a glitch saying that it cannot be created. It should be created. Let's just wait for it. Looks like it is created. And to verify whether it is really applied or not, I will go to my load balancer. I'll go to my load balancer and see whether the cloud armor, previously it was none, right? Whether it is now applied or not. Let me just verify it. If I click on edit, I should be able to see it. The back end. You see this, folks? Previously, it was not applied. It is now applied, right? Because there was no ARM security policy there. Now we had defined it. It came up. Okay. So it came up. If you don't want, you can turn it off. You can turn it off. So it's applied. So the changes have been done. Now, I'm just clicking to say no. The changes have been done. You can see it here if there is anything. Yeah. Here also you can see it. Security policy, Cloud Armor is enabled. So in our other project, if I go and show you, you should see identity aware proxy enabled. You should see that actually. CDN enabled, all those things you should be able to see. Make sure I'll show you that. So in this load balancer, we had only enabled security policy. That's what it shows. Now, let's go and see whether it works from my laptop. It works. Will it work from my Cloud Shell? Let me see it. Still working. It's going to take a little bit time for it to do the changes. Then we should be able to see once it shows when we access this from our Cloud Shell, 502 error, bad gateway. It should show. It's going to take a little bit time for it to come up. So a little bit time to come up. Anybody, it's blocking or it's still showing you the same thing? Is it showing denied, folks? Awesome, it is showing. You see bad gateway. Is it working, folks, for you? From your Cloud Shell, it should be blocked. As long as your IP of your Cloud Shell, it's working, meaning it's not throwing you that error. Okay, it's throwing for 502 error. So that's it. We have done our stuff. So we have put a firewall rule to our load balancer in very, very simple terms. We have put a firewall rule to our load balancer. Any questions on this part, folks? Any questions on this? From your laptop, it should be working, if I'm not wrong. From your laptop, it should work. Only from your Cloud Shell, it's going to be blocked. Not working from the laptop. Is your IP, Vivek, in 35, your IP of your laptop? So if you just go to IP5, go to this website, open it in a browser, see whether it is 35 or 34. Then it will not work. It will not work. Otherwise, it should. Interesting one. Just check it out once, Vivek. What's your IP? So when you open this in a Chrome browser in your laptop, check it out. It should be 35 or 34, something. Otherwise, it should have worked basically. Or try something with a different browser. So hope it's not a corporate laptop. Try it out. So I need to dismantle that. That's the reason. It's a paid one, so everything is going to be charged there. Let me give a couple of minutes, folks. Give a try for everybody. So the IP address is already mentioned. IP address is already mentioned. This is the IP. It should work in your laptops unless your IPs of your laptop, the public IP is not 35 dot or 34 dot. If it's not, it should work. But in your Cloud Shell, it should not work provided your Cloud Shell IPs are 35 dot or 34 dot. Vivek, were you able to get it? Did you get a chance to see it? Okay, laptop working. Awesome. Thank you. So good. So any other questions, folks? Any other questions? On at least on Cloud Armor. If there's no question, I'm going to dismantle it. That's the reason. So other thing, I can keep it. It's a free trial, but this is a paid one, so I have to delete it. So if there's no question, let me delete it. delete my backend service, health check, all those things, and my load virtual machine also. So load balancer gets deleted. Just deleting the load balancer and the health check which it had. It's very important you delete both of them. Done. Then go to my armor, and armor is charged by rules, number of rules. So deleting my armor, lastly my virtual machine. So delete this virtual machine. Good. Now before we go to the further part of the demo, so in the other account, the free trial account, just wanted to show you the existing load balancer, what and all has been configured. So if I just click on this load balancer, here if you see the advanced this thing, Cloud Armor is not applicable for SSL and TCP proxy. Yes, it's not applicable. It's not applicable. It's not applicable. It's for layer 7. But there is some new feature which is coming up, Vivek. I went through yesterday, not completely, but there are something which they are trying to do. Maybe I'll show you that quickly, what I saw. But they are trying to do something with, so the SSL, if you see SSL, SSL and TCP proxy, you can also have it at layer 7, right? Global one. For that, you can apply. Not for your network TCP and UDP load balancer. For that, it's not going to work. But we have a global SSL and TCP, right? For that, it's going to work. That's layer 7. That is going to work. Okay, I'll show you that quickly. But before I forget it, in our yesterday's load balancer, which we configured, you see the identity aware proxy. Morning, we configured the identity aware proxy, right? It shows it is enabled. It shows it is enabled. CDN is disabled. Please note, CDN is disabled for my backend service. Identity aware proxy is enabled. No security policy. Security policy could have been enabled, but I did not had my paid account, so it was not a paid account. Now, if you come to your backend, you should be able to see CDN is enabled. Backend bucket. So for backend bucket, identity aware proxy itself will not work. We have seen it. There's a it's a long pending request. It does not work. So this is something which I wanted to highlight. Now to answer Vivek's question, if I just go to my other account, the paid account, Cloud Armor, there are two flavors which they have started. This one, Vivek. So they have a managed protection. Is the managed protection service that helps protect your web application from DDoS. It is offered in 2 tiers, standard plus and plus. So in standard, all projects that includes HTTPS load balancing, TCP proxy load balancer, and SSL proxy load balancer. So all the global one, layer 7 is going to apply. So it is applied. It is available, Vivek, but not for your network load balancers. Basically, the layers 4, it's not applicable. Okay. So now we saw about how Armor works, all those things. Good. We saw a demo also using the paid account. Now we are going to talk about something called as VPC flow logs. What is this VPC flow logs? So basically how the records, how the network flow happens within my VPC. What is the source IP? What is the destination IP? All those details. Like this is going to be really helpful if you want to do some kind of a network monitoring or forensic or some analytics which you wanted to know. Basically, for that purpose, this flow logs are going to be really helpful. And also, if you wanted to put, if you see something is not, sorry, if something is not working properly as per your requirement, if you want to do an analysis also, VPC flow logs comes very handy. So basically it's going to show your source and destination, how the things have been propagating. So that's going to give you a very good idea. But remember, people don't enable VPC flow logs by default because it's going to be a logging and it's going to be heavy. So your logging price is going to go for a toss. So people usually enable it, and when you enable it, you do a sample rate, sampling. So not everything you're going to get it. A sampled version of is what you're going to do. Something like 50% of it is only going to be logged. So something of that sample rate or sampling is what is going to be enabled. And this VPC flow logs are going to be basically applied at a subnetwork level. So basically, this is going to be a regional resource. This is a regional resource. Let me just show you how this works once we enable it, because most of the time when we created our subnetwork, we left this value as off. Now we will enable it and we'll see how the logs show up. Okay. So before I do that, let me make sure I update my cheat sheet. This one is also not required. Here's my cheat sheet. Yeah, this one. So let's add today what we learned. Cloud Armor we learned. Cloud Armor, what's the scope which you will tell folks? Cloud Armor, now we are seeing VPC flow logs. VPC flow logs is at a subnetwork level, meaning it's going to be a regional resource. Regional resource. Cloud Armor, how do you define it, folks? What level you do it? You applied for a global load balancer. So can I make it as global? Because it's applied at a global level only. So for your global load balancer, I'm going to make it as global. Our flow logs is going to be at a regional level because it is applied at a subnetwork level. So the most simplistic demo, let's try to do it and see what is going to happen. Okay. So sorry, subnetwork level typo there. Sorry for that. So how do I do that? Basically, we have been accessing it n number of times. So if I just close all these things. So if I go to my logs, first of all, I'll show you where it is going to be there. It's going to be at your subnetwork level. So go to VPC, VPC network. The one which we are using is subnet Taiwan. If I click on that, it's going to show you we have turned on private Google access, but we have not turned on flow logs, VPC flow logs. You have to turn it on. So only if you turn it on, you'll see more information. Now, if I just simply click on view flow logs, it may not capture anything. It would not have captured anything because we have not turned it on. So for the last, even if I go to 6 hours, it's not going to show anything. It's not going to show anything because nothing is captured. If you want to see the details, what is the kind of query which you put? Basically, you expect flow logs. Nothing is there. Now, what I'm going to do is go and enable it and send some request. You can also access the website. We'll also access it. So some health check probes are going to happen. The VM is going to respond back. So everything is going to be logged, but at a sampled rate. So let's try to enable that. For some kind of forensic stuff, this is going to be really helpful. So let me click on edit. Simple, turn on. But Google is very good. If you see, turning on VPC flow log does not affect performance, but some system generated logs, generate a large number of logs, which can increase the cost in Stackdriver. So we will talk about Stackdriver. So it's your logging tool. So your cost may increase there. I can just share one of my experience here. one of the learners had a question once on Kubernetes. So he had to do something for his organization. So, and with the free trial account, he was not able to do it. So he made it as a paid account. And he once had a call with me and he was sharing the screen and showing, and he showed the price, the Kubernetes cluster incurred cost. The cost of Kubernetes cluster was around 1,000 rupees or something. The cost of the logging, right, was 2,500 or something. So sometimes the logging can eat up your cost very, very easily. So don't turn on certain things which is going to incur a cost. So Google is very particular here. So they give that very upfront. It's not like hidden stuffs, which is very good, which is very good. So, and you can configure how you want to sample it, so it also gives per day. It's going to generate roughly with the 5 seconds. If you are going to do, it's going to, if I make it as 15, so it's going to be a little less. If I make it as every 5 seconds, if I were to capture, so the amount of data which is going to be generated, it's going to be little high. For our demonstration, let's involve everything so that we can see every logs coming there. So I'm going to leave everything default. 5 seconds is the aggregation interval. Include also some metadata information. Sample at 50. So if you just mouse over, setting a down sample entries before sending them to stack drive. So it's going to down sample it basically. This is all to save our cost basically, but still want to do some forensic analysis. So let's wait for this logs. And whenever you talk about any logging, right, in GCP, it is not that it's already there, it's blocked from viewing, something like this. It was already there and it is blocked. It is not like that. Only when you enable, from that point onwards only, it's going to be enabled. Only from that point onwards only the logging is going to be enabled. So the past, you cannot get it. Remember that. So the time now is around 9 o'clock in India. So we have enabled flow logs also. Now we have our app, right? So everybody can send some request. Okay, it is going to ask for a login. Let me just log in. Okay, so you can log in. It's a beautiful thing. You can log in, send some request, folks, to this website so that we can see some logs. We can see some logs. So send some request, static, static. Then what was that? Logo.png. So you will see some requests coming from the load balancer to our virtual machine, basically. So now I'm back in the logs. So let me click on run the query now. I should see something. It's going to take a little time to come up. There's going to be a little latency. Let me stream it. So how I came to this page, it was built in here. So when I come to that VPC, it's going to show me this option. Click directly, it's going to come here. So we just need to wait for a few more minutes for it to show. Yes. Okay, so the request, so it's going to be log is going to be there. So now the cache, Kumar, it only applies for your CDN part, basically your static images. But if you access this page, this is served from your backend service, which is nothing but a virtual machine in this case, unmanaged instance group. So this will be logged. This will be logged. So now the VPC flow logs is basically for your virtual machine. So because you're accessing, this is being served from a virtual machine. So this should be logged. So this should be logged. Let me see whether it has shown up the stuffs. So I guess we have to leave it for some more time to capture it. I'm just refreshing it. It's going to take a little time, folks. We'll come back. We'll come back and see this part. Basically, the type of logs which we are seeing is VPC flow logs. So let me also try to log into this virtual machine. Even those things also going to be captured. So if I just go to my virtual machine, log in from my laptop, even that's a request. So there's going to be a destination IP, there's going to be a source IP. So let me just SSH. Yes, I have logged in. That was an incoming request. So let me see whether the logs at least get generated now. I have seen it takes little time to come up, at least the VPC flow logs. When I also tried it, it took time for it to come. So let me just leave it for some more time. It is going to be sampled also. So, or let me try something like this. Directly go to the logs. So the last logs which I see is not yet captured, not yet captured. Let's wait for a couple of minutes for this to come up, folks. By the time this comes up, maybe I can do one more activity. I'll have one virtual machine. Sorry, I'll create one more virtual machine. Try to ping this, also show that even that from one virtual machine to another virtual machine, if you ping access anything, even that is going to be logged when you do this VPC flow logs enabled. So test machine, test VM in Taiwan. So put it in VPC Taiwan. No need of external IP address. Create it. Still not there. Let me SSH into this machine and try pinging or do all those kinds of stuffs. Let's see what's going to be the log. It's going to generate, it's taking time. That's it. Because both are in the same VPC, both are in the same region, I should be able to access with the host name also. Should connect. Oh, the firewall rule may be different. My bad. The firewall rule is not applied here. So because we made a firewall rule only with the service account. Okay, quickly let me create a new VM, folks. I have to create the firewall because we applied. So if we see here, the firewall rule which we applied is always using a service account. So firewall rule is based on a service account. I have to apply that only. So if I do something, I will not be able to log into the VM. Logs coming up, not yet. I'm just trying to create some activity. That's it. Network activity. So let me create a new one because anyway, stopping and creating again with this thing is going to be again the same thing. Rather, I'll create a new instance. Instance activity. So in Taiwan, any zone is fine. So this is important. So for me to log into this, because I have a firewall rule applied to the server's account. Only if the VMs are with the server's account, I can SSH. That's the setting which we have done. So go to networking. No external IP address. That should be good enough. Any logs? Any logs? It should not be this long, or maybe I've done something wrong, or let's verify it. It cannot be this long, but I have seen when I log in from another VM, I get at least an activity generated. So SSH, this time it should work. Okay, it's there. Folks, you are able to hear me? There was a small glitch. Yeah, thank you. So I'll try to connect. Try to connect to the system. This is the logs, and if you try expanding it, you will see usually expand this thing. So you should see destination IP, the source IP, so where it is coming from, complete details you will get it. Complete details you will get it. It took really a good amount of time. Uh, Usually what people do is export this log to a warehouse called as BigQuery, which we will talk mostly in our next class when we start our big data concept. So this is how the logs look like. Basically, you get a complete picture. It took really long time for us to get the log details. You get those. So some of them have tried using IPv6, IPv6, and they have reached our VMs. So this is how the logs look like. If you want such fine granular information about the source, destination, what is the protocol, all those things, you can enable VPC flow logs, but it's going to be really expensive. Use it with caution. When you want, you do it. When you don't want it, simply go and turn it off. Only for a short period you want to do it. Sorry, you do it, you want to do it. Afterwards, turn it off. That's going to be a better approach. That's going to be a better approach. So is the VPC flow logs concept clear, folks? It's going to give you more information which could be used for n number of use cases, but use with caution, basically. Okay, thank you, folks. So now I guess we will go to the next part. Network service tier, a very important one, and something which is unique. I'm not sure whether other cloud provider has this. People who have worked on it can comment on it. So what is this? First of all, let me explain you. Then you can, maybe it may be called in a different name in the other cloud. So in a normal networking term, they have two names: hot potato and cold potato. So imagine as if like if you have a hot potato in your hand, you cannot hold it in one hand. So you are going to do a juggling between one hand and the other hand, right? So because the potato is hot, you cannot keep it for a longer time. So basically, that is what is called as hot potato. So most of the cloud providers leverage hot potato. What does that hot potato mean? So you start seeing it from here. End user sends a traffic, it leaves their ISP provider, then goes into public internet. It keeps on hopping from one router to another router till it reaches the final destination, which is going to be Google Cloud. Google Cloud. So it's going to take a long time to reach your the package to reach your GCP network, and it's going to spend more time on the public internet. So latency is going to be really high. So, but the cost is going to be very, very cheap when you are sending this packet because it's leveraging public internet. The other one which you have is called as cold potato, where the moment the data leaves your ISP provider, very quickly it's going to reach Google's point of presence, POP, meaning it's going to spend more time on Google network. So if it's spending more, if the packet spends more time on your Google network, latency is very, very less. So, but the cost is going to be little high. So compared to your standard premium is going to be little high, but not super high like your spanner and big table. So it's going to be marginally high. That's it. So now you take a call, which one should be preferred. So if you want the data to stay on Google network for long time, or it has to spend more time on a public internet. So if it's spending more time on public internet, it's going to be called as hot potato. If it's going to spend more time on that specific cloud provider's network, it's going to be called as cold potato. The one hot is basically it's going to keep on jumping hops. Cold one, there's nothing, no hops usually. 1 or 2 hops would be there, and it's going to quickly reach the Google's data center. So that's the normal term which people give: hot potato and cold potato. When it comes to GCP, they give a name called as standard network tier. Standard in network service tier, you have standard offering, which is equivalent to your hot potato, and premium tier, which is going to be equivalent to your cold potato. So, and you have to read this diagram not from left to right, but from right to left. That is how you are able to visualize this part. So only from the left you have to visualize it. So there's a video which I've already posted in the YouTube channel. You can look into it for a complete explanation of this, where I have done this. But I'll quickly show you a small demonstration. How do you change the setting in your project? And when you create a virtual machine, how it can make a huge impact. And let's use the same ping example itself. So there is a demo in the channel also. It's, I guess, 25 minutes or so. If you want, you can look into it. Let's do a quick one here. So by default, most of the time when you use it, it's going to be premium tier. It's going to be premium tier by default most of the time. Where do I see this? Let me just show you this part. So if I go to my network, is this related? No. This is not related to dedicated interconnect. Please don't get confused. Don't get confused. I'll show you the demonstration that's going to make it very clear. You can also create it. You can also use it. So don't get confused. It's not related to dedicated interconnect. It is how an end user is going to access your service, basically. So if I come to my network tier, the fourth option in your this thing, if I click on it, it's going to show what is the setting which you have done. So in batch 6, the setting which has been done is premium, meaning everything is going to be premium, and it's going to apply for what and all resources. Basically for your IP address, for your load balancer forwarding rules, and any network interface if you have created. So it's going to apply for these things basically. So if I create a virtual machine, so if I click on static IP address, so you see the IP address here. So it's going to apply for this. So your NAT is going to leverage that. Your external global load balancer is going to leverage this. So if I create a virtual machine also, it's going to leverage it. So let me show how I can set this up. So before I do that, if I show you the load balancer, which we have created, if I click on the load balancer, you see this part, folks? This is your forwarding rule. So it is by default premium. It has been set at a project level. Now you can change this if you want to make it standard. If you make it standard, it's going to be cheaper. If you make it premium, it's going to be expensive, but you are going to have low latency. You're going to have low latency. So what is this? Let me explain in very, very simple terms by doing a small demonstration where I'm going to delete this VM. And create a new VM. I'll call this as standard. I'm going to use standard tier. How do I do that? Let me just show you. So Taiwan. Now I'm going to use external IP address for this demonstration. So under my networking, standard stuff, I'm just going to give my VPC. Now, the only thing which I'm going to make as a difference is this part, folks. We used to leave it as default. We used to come till here, make either external IP address none or ephemeral. Now we come down and explore the next part, which is premium network service tier. By default, it's going to be premium. This is set at a project level. But if you want to override it, you can make it here. Only this VM is going to use standard service tier. What is the implication of that? Let me show you once I finish this demonstration. So it's standard because we have done the change. Let me look at the command line equivalent of that to know what is that. It's going to be called as premium network tier standard. If it is not there, it's going to be premium. So if I make it as premium, I'm not sure if it's going to be mentioned because it's default, but let's verify it. Yeah, it is there. So it is there. So I guess the default is premium if I'm not wrong. So it shows. So that's the stuff. Let me just make it back to standard. Click on create. Let me create one more instance. I'll clone this. I'll create one. I'll call this as premium. While creating VM, is it optional, right? The default is premium. It is going to be set at the project level, Kumar. By default, every project, the service tier is going to be premium. If you want, you can change it. By default, it's going to be premium. Correct. And that's what we have been doing all this time. It was all premium. It was all premium. Now only we explicitly made it a VM with a standard tier. So creating another virtual machine, and I don't need to do any setting here because by default it's going to be premium. I just change my VPC to my VPC Taiwan. So I'm going to leave it as premium only, the standard option. Create it. Now I have two VMs. I'm not going to SSH into this VM, folks. This is not the demo where we need to SSH into it. Okay, firewall rule. I have to make sure a firewall rule exists. Let me see the firewall rules, folks. I make this mistake, or I'll create a firewall rule, which is little open for now at least. So no firewall rules. So you cannot even connect it. I want you people to connect to this machine. So I'm going to create a firewall rule, which is little relaxed firewall rule. So demo or FW network service tier. So I'll apply to my VPC Taiwan. I'll make this slightly a higher priority. Allow from any instance /0. No. What I'll do is I'll only allow one specific operation, folks, ICMP, only for you people to try it out, nothing else. Only ping, nothing else from the outside world. So this should be applied to all the VMs which we have. Good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share you the IP. First of all, I'm going to share the hot potato option, standard virtual machines IP address. This is the IP address. Now the activity which you are going to do now is open up your, I hope you are using a Windows machine. For Mac also, if you are using, you should get an option. Open up your PowerShell or command prompt, whatever is comfortable to you. I'm going to open up PowerShell for a change. Both are going to work. So both, okay, the font is small. I don't want to set this. Okay, let it be here. Okay, let me open my command prompt. So little font is bigger. So what I'm going to do is basically do a command called as trace route. Trace route the IP. This is what I want you to do also from your laptop. So whatever the part of the world you belong to, you can just do this. Okay, so it has to be RT. Sorry, trace RT. In Windows machine, try something like this, folks. And yes, okay, no need to paste that thing. So you'll see how many hops it has taken basically. So if you're using Mac, you can use trace route completely and get it basically. So what it's going to show is basically how the packets are getting routed. How the packets are getting routed is what you are going to see. The first one is going to be my router's gateway. Then it's going to go to my ISP provider. Then it's going to go to various hops because I'm using a standard tier. So I need to reach to Taiwan. I need to reach Taiwan basically. So you will see the hops, the number of hops which is taking. What you can do if you have got, if you have reached the packet has reached your destination, which is the standard machine, which is in Taiwan, what you can do, you can just use a small application called as IP lookup. IP lookup. There are lots of tools. You can use either one of them. So I'm going to take the first one. Take the first one. Copy one of the IPs which you get. For example, if I copy this one and paste it, this is nothing but my service provider. So this is my service provider act. It shows it is Tata Communications. The ISP provider is Tata Communications is what it indicates. It shows like it is in Asia, blah blah blah. So the ISP provider is Tata. So do the same activity and see few things like this. This one, if I select this, the ISP provider which you may get is Google. Not many of us know Google is also an ISP provider, but it is in the private world. So not for the external, but it's one of the largest service provider, internet service provider, ISP. So it is indicating it has reached Google's network. It has reached Google's network at this stage. What was the IP which I used? 29. So this one at the 12th hop, it's going to go up to 30 hops by default. At the 12th hop, or maybe let me try this one. This is Tata. This is still Tata. So till here, 10th hop, it was on a public internet service providers like Tata Communications, all those things. So at my 12th hop, it reached Google. It reached Google, meaning any other IP after that, if you take anything randomly, I can take this one. I can blindly say it is going to be Google because it has already entered Google's network. It has already entered Google's network. You see that. So, but it took how many hops? It took how many hops? It took basically 12 hops for me to reach Google's network. So hot potato concept. Now do the same activity for your other VM, which is using premium tier. So copy this IP address. So this is the command. So this is your premium one. Let me ping you the IP. Try it and you'll be really surprised how it really works. So if I do trace route, quickly it's going to join the Google's network. 1 or 2 hops. The moment it leaves my ISP provider, 1 or 2 hops, it should be in Taiwan. So let's see that. Do you see the changes, folks? So it should be within 10 hops or 12 hops, it should have reached. That's the main key part of my premium tier. I guess it has already reached. 5th tier, this is the one. If I'm not wrong, this is Google. After it left my ISP provider, 5th hop itself, if I just copy this, it's a private one. Yeah, it's a private one. Sorry. This one should be Google if I'm not wrong. Oh, it's Tata. Oh, for this one. Yes. So I have reached 108. In my 8th hop itself, I reached Google network. So meaning I'm going to spend more time on my Google network rather than on public internet. So for you, it was 10 hops to Google. So, but for the standard, how many hops was it, Deepak? Deepak Bhandari, how many hops was it? It should have been more than this. 24 hops. You see the difference. You see the difference by yourself. I guess others were able to try it with those IPs, folks. So basically, the realistic one is it's going to spend some time on public internet, but it's going to be very less. The idealistic condition is the moment it leaves your ISP provider, it's going to reach Google's point of presence. But that's not the reality. We saw that. Maybe it is because of free trial account. I'm not sure. But if you see, it is going to be reaching Google network quickly. So Kumar, hope the concept is now clear. It's nothing to related to your dedicated interconnect or partner interconnect. It is how you want the end users to reach your system quickly. How the packets do it. Yes. So this is the stuff, and something similar is there in my YouTube channel also. If you want, you can look into it, folks. So this is something on um, network service tier. Prefer to use premium if it's a customer who expects to have a better experience for their end user. The same thing applies for your load balancers also. For your load balancer also. So I have a hard stop for the okay. So sure, Mangesh, go ahead. So let me just delete those VMs. Or if I go to my service tier, if I see the IP address. This is attached to our VMs. So this has been applied to all those things basically. Now let me just delete those VMs. So let's move to the next concept, folks. we'll stop this. Once we finish this, we should be able to stop our concept. The next and the last concept, if I'm not wrong, let me see, is there any other slides? Yeah, pricing. We'll talk about pricing. So the last concept in our networking is serverless VPC access. So what is this serverless VPC access? Basically, let's assume you use a serverless component like App Engine standard, very specific App Engine standard, uh, Cloud Functions or Cloud Run. These are all truly serverless products. They don't even require any network. If there's no network, we have seen this demo. We deleted the VPC and we created it. Everything worked fine, right? Everything worked fine. But these are all web applications, right? So if it's all web application and if you wanted to access a database, something like your Cloud SQL instance, which is provisioned using an internal IP address, how will you use to access it, folks? So if there's a virtual machine, sorry, if it's a Cloud SQL instance, so if it's a Cloud SQL instance with private IP, how did you access that Cloud SQL instance, folks? What was the approach which we took? You remember that? How we access that virtual machine, Cloud SQL instance? A Cloud SQL instance with private IP. The way we accessed it was basically we used a VM in the same VPC and connected it. It worked because Cloud SQL instance and your VM, the network, there's a network which is there, they appeared, we were able to do it. The same thing applies if it's a Kubernetes cluster. So if it's in the same network, you are able to do it. As long as the resources are part of the same network or they are peered, you will be able to communicate between them using internal IP address. That's all good. But what if you were to interact with a Cloud SQL instance with a private IP, but it is not from a VM, but it is from App Engine standard or Cloud Functions or Cloud Run? They don't have a network itself. So they don't have a network itself. Then how will you connect? How will you connect? So that, to answer that, is where you get a new service from Google. It's been for good time, for a good long time, called as serverless VPC access. So this is very popular in AWS, if I'm not wrong. This product is there for a long time. So something equivalent to this. So this enables you to connect serverless products to GCP services like Cloud SQL instance. Redis also has internal IP address only, right? So to connect to those things, you need to create this connector, which helps you to connect using internal IP address itself. So a very, very, very handy option where you can have totally serverless components. Wherever you need to have some storage or database, go create this connector and do it. Basically what it does is it creates a bridge basically. So this is how it looks like. There's a request from internet. It goes to either App Engine, Cloud Run, Cloud Functions, whatever it is. You have a VPC. You have a VPC like this. What you are going to do is you are going to have a bridge. You are going to create something called as VPC access connector, where you provide any internal IP address as long as it's not overlapping, create a connector. So it's going to create a bridge, or it's more like a peering which is going to build. So at the end, App Engine, Cloud Run, Cloud Functions, all those things are going to have some kind of a network which we cannot see, which is going to be managed by Google. So it's going to build a peering basically between that serverless products and your network. That way you will be able to connect to any of the GCP resources using internal IP address. So only if it is a serverless product, specifically only 3 products, folks, nothing else. App Engine, standard, Cloud Functions and Cloud Run. If it is any of these things, and if you were to connect to a Cloud SQL, sorry, to a Cloud SQL instance, to Redis or anything, you're going to use basically this option. You're going to use this option, straightforward option. Where do you see it? Let me just show you that. So if I just go to my VPC network, you should see serverless VPC access. So let me click on this. So API for managing VPC access connectors. So allows cloud functions and app engine apps to access resources in a VPC using those private IPs. That's the key part of it. So let's enable this. So when they did it, Cloud Functions was not there, Cloud Run was not there, they have not updated this. So but Cloud Run also it is applicable because that's also truly serverless. So let's enable this API. Once we enable it, we'll go ahead and see how we can leverage it. So allows to create Cloud Functions, Cloud Run fully managed, not the Anthos version of it. App Engine standard apps to access VPC network using the private IP. That's the key part of it, folks. So let's create a connector. Create a connector. I will call it as batch6-VPC connector. Okay, before I create a connector, right, let me dismantle all the stuffs which I've created, folks, for a specific reason, so that it will make it as a clean slate, because you see some external IPs, all those things. Let's clean up the stuffs which we have left it from yesterday, and then come and create a serverless VPC connector. So I'll go to my load balancer, delete both of my load balancers which I have. So this one, delete it. Similarly, this one, delete it. With the backend, I have backend service, backend bucket, I have health check, I have SSL certificate. So I'm going to delete all those things. Those were all attached to my load balancer. So if you want, you can delete it. We have deleted it. So let's wait for this to get deleted, and we'll also delete our NAT, which we created. We don't need this NAT. For a specific reason, I'm doing this, so that it's going to be a clean slate. NAT is not there. Load balancer is not there. Let me delete my virtual machine, which has been used from yesterday. So bye-bye. So let me just delete this. Now, if I go to my external IP address and refresh it, it should be, everything is released, but this was the one which was attached to my website. Now the load balancer is removed, but it is not now used. So it is unused. So better release it. Otherwise you'll be charged at an hourly rate. We have seen that. So I'm going to release that. So no external IP address, fully removed. Done. So now if this is all good. Now what I will do is go to my serverless VPC access and create a connector. This is going to do the bridge between my app engine, all the serverless products, and any GCP services which needs to be accessed via internal IP address, like Cloud SQL instance with internal IP address, Redis, or maybe another VM. So from app engine, you want to access a compute engine which has some third-party softwares, something like a third-party software running on your app compute engine. You want to access it. You can also do that using internal IP address. So this is a cool feature, I would say. Let me create it. VPC serverless. Oh, sorry, VPC access. So serverless VPC access. Create a connector. So give a name, batch 6 VPC, so serverless VPC access. Oh, there's a limit on the characters. So this is basically regional because your subnetworks are going to be regional. It's on the same line, so it's going to be a regional one. Let me make it in, say, for example, Taiwan. Taiwan, you mention the network because you need to access via internal IP. So in which what resources in which VPC is very, very important. So now you can give a subnetwork of your choice, and please make sure there's no overlap. There's no overlap, otherwise it's going to create a conflict. So my VPC Taiwan already has a subnetwork, which is this one. Now I'm going to create something like there is no 180 address space in this. Okay, so if I can create something like 192.168.100/0. So it's going to be /128/28, meaning 4 bits are available, 2 power 4, if I'm not wrong, 16. 16 IPs is what you can allocate using this serverless access. So, and you have some scaling options. What should be the throughput, all those things which you can give. I'm just going to leave it as default. So this is going to create a sub network in the same VPC, and using this sub network is where our serverless products are going to access those other GCP resource which has internal IP address. Let me just create it. It's just a bridge. That's it. Let me just wait for this to finish. I go to my external IPs, you don't see anything. Nothing has been created. And if you go to your VPC, you will not see any new subnetwork shown, folks. You will not see anything there. But what you will see is once you finish, let's wait for this to come up. Okay, instead of waiting for it to come up, I'll finish the next part, then we will come back and see this part. So last component in this networking is the price part. We have seen, as we have gone through the components, we have seen some of the pricing like dedicated interconnect, cloud router is free, dedicated interconnect, what is the cost? For the tunnels, what is the cost? We have seen it. But now we have a fair understanding about the networking, all those things. So instead of showing you a slide which is going to get outdated very soon, so I thought let me directly go to the official page itself, how pricing is going to be charged. So before I show you this, just wanted to share the small information. So there's going to be two kinds of terms which people will use when it comes to networking. So egress, outbound, then outgoing traffic, egress traffic. So these are all same. Inbound, incoming traffic. These are all the same terms. So whenever I talk about ingress or egress, the reference point, where are you standing? The reference is always always a VM, folks. If I say egress traffic, the traffic which goes out of the VM. So if I say egress traffic going out from your VM, out of your traffic going out from your VM. So an ingress is traffic coming into your VM. This is the basic stuff. Can anybody give an example for an ingress, folks? Ingress, incoming request to a VM. Any example which you can give? Any incoming request? Outgoing? Web traffic? Yep, if it's only the only VM, you can have it as web traffic. SSH, folks. SSH is also an incoming request. Your ping is also an incoming request. It's an incoming request. So outgoing basically from your virtual machine. If you connect to a Google Cloud storage bucket, if private Google access is not turned on. So from a VM to another VM, if you are in one VM and do a ping, so let's take the simplistic example which we always do, right? VM1, VM2. Now if you are in VM2 and do ping VM1, basically what is going to happen is for VM1 it is a incoming traffic or ingress. For VM2 it is a egress. So is this part clear, folks? Same command. All these times when we were doing, we were actually using both the stuff. So VM ping VM1 is going to be an incoming request to VM1 ingress. For the VM2, it's going to be an outgoing request. Simplistic one. Okay. So now most of the pricing is only going to be on based on this egress and ingress only. So let's see the stuff quickly and see what is going to be the cost which is going to incur. Once we finish it, we'll come to our serverless access. I'm not going to do a complete demo on this, but just wanted to show you that part. That's it. So if I go to my networking price, and now you start realizing why we were focusing so much on internal IP address. So when it comes to ingress, the network pricing, they make it very clear. Ingress traffic coming into a cloud service such as VM. If you send a traffic between two VMs and the traffic is counted as an egress as it leaves one and is counted as egress traffic as it arrives at the other. So this is your incoming, the ingress. Egress traffic leaving Google resource, basically leaving the Google resource. So your standard and premium tier is also going to come into picture. Now the most important thing, folks, incoming request. No charge for incoming traffic. So any incoming traffic to your VM is totally free of charge. But there are some exceptions. The exceptions are for your load balancer, because for your load balancer it's always going to be incoming. So there is a charge for your load balancer, cloud NAT and forwarding rules. Remaining other things, basically it's going to be nothing but your incoming request to your Google Cloud storage bucket, your incoming request to your Cloud SQL instance, your incoming request to your virtual machine. These are all going to be free. Okay, so that's the first part. Incoming request or ingress most of the time is free except for three services. VM to VM egress pricing. This is the most important thing. So egress to the same cloud zone with when using internal IP address of the resource, no charge. Now, can anybody explain me what is this they are trying to say? Egress to the same Google Cloud zone when using internal IP address of the resource. What are the resource? If you mention the price can be a subnetwork. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. What is this, folks? What is that they're trying to convey here? Anybody wants to jump up and say what is this all about? Two VMs in the same region. No, same zone. Yes, same zone. VM1, VM2 in Mumbai A zone. Both are in Mumbai A zone. And they have internal IP, external IP both. But if I do ping VM1 using internal IP address, so it's going to be basically for VM1, it's going to be a egress cost, right? For VM2, it's going to be an ingress cost. This is free. This is free. This one is also going to be free because you are using internal IP address and both are in the same zone. But the moment you change your VM1 from A zone to B zone, even though you use internal IP address, egress to a different Google Cloud zone in the same Google Cloud region, Mumbai A, B, using internal IP address, you will be charged $0.01 per GB. So now you really appreciate the value of internal IP address. The moment you go to external, right, the price is going to shoot like anything. So prefer to use always internal IP address. And this one is very important. Now VM to VM, now you can look into all the details. Now you have got an idea how to do it. So basically the only cost which is free is going to be free is of this option. This is the only thing. If two VMs are going to come into picture, this is the only thing which is free. Remaining everything is there's a cost. How much is the cost? Come to the pricing details and look into it. Now I use this concept to use any data processing requirement, meaning it's not always VM to VM, we may use VM to storage bucket, right? VM to storage bucket also you can check it out. So you can look for anything else, not VM to VM, something else. Egress between Google resource or some other resource, they will mention it. Where is that? VM to Google services. Is there a VM to, yeah, Google services. Egress to a specific Google non-cloud platforms, non like YouTube. So from a VM, if you try to access Google services like YouTube, Gmail, Drive, all those things, there's no cost. There's no cost. Whether the VM is with external or internal, both are going to be free. Egress to a different Google service within the same region using an external IP address or except these things, there's no charge. Meaning, if you have a Cloud SQL instance, VM to a Cloud SQL instance, from the VM, it's going to be an outgoing traffic and an incoming request to your Cloud SQL instance. If that is the one, it's going to be charged at a VM to VM cost only. So meaning always have your bastion host which is close to your Cloud SQL instance. Then egress to Google services in a different region. It's going to be same as your VM to VM cost. So make sure you always keep in the same region or in the same zone. That way your network cost can be reduced to a great extent. Otherwise you'll spend more money in your egress cost itself. Basically, that is the key part here. Egress is the one which is going to eat up most of the cost, and it also depends upon whether it is coming from intercontinental. So two VMs in the same in two different regions but in the same continent, it has a different price. If you have a VM in US and a VM in Singapore, and if I just do a ping also, it's going to be intercontinental request. So it's going to be little tricky part. So the easiest way to do is this one. This option is the only thing which is free, remaining everything is charged. That's how I do it. So that way I know, and I always try to keep a data processing system like like a Cloud SQL instance or anything which is going to be running on a virtual machine or anything. We are going to see next week more about data processing systems like Hadoop, all those things. Always try to keep it close, have it in the same region if possible. That way you can reduce a great egress cost. Okay, so that's on the pricing part. Let me see whether my connector is created. The connector is created. Let me see, is there any change which happens in the network? No change in the network. I'm just going to take 5 minutes only, folks. No change in the network. Go to my external IP address. No change. No change there. Now, since you have a connector, what you can do is use this connector for your App Engine, Cloud Functions, or Cloud Run. So I'll show you how it looks, but I'll not do a demonstration. I'm planning to do a demo. I'll put it in the YouTube itself so you can look into it. This is more for application part. So if I go to my cloud functions, right? If I go to my cloud functions, create a cloud functions, and this function needs to access a MySQL instance, MySQL database or something. What you can do is you can create it in, okay, Taiwan I used. Okay, Taiwan I cannot use it. It's not there. I'll use Cloud Run, folks. I'll use Cloud Run. Cloud Run. I'll create a service in Taiwan. So serverless VPC access fully managed in on GKE or Cloud Run on Anthos. It's not supported. So previously it was called as Cloud Run on Anthos. Now at least they have made it as GKE because Anthos was very much extensively used, which was not making sense. So that is good. Taiwan, click. I have to select the image. I'm just going to select one of the dummy images which we have. Container image. Under my setting, I have advanced setting. I have a connection option. So under the connections is where you are going to get this option, folks. VPC connector. You see, you get that because you are in the same region. But if you make it as some other region, it's not going to be available. It's not going to be available. So now, using this, you should be able to connect to any of the internal services using internal IP address itself. So this is how the connector gets established. If you want, explore more. And I'm also going to post a video soon with Cloud Run MySQL instance using internal IP address. Soon I will be putting that, so you can also look into that part if you're interested in that web application kind of stuffs. Okay, so that's something which I wanted to share for today. We'll stop it here. Next Saturday when we join, we will start with a quiz. So 30 minutes we'll finish it. Then we'll jump into our module 6, folks. Okay, let me stop it here. People who have a hard stop can log off. If you have any questions, happy to answer it. Any questions? No questions? All right, folks. If there's no questions, we'll stop it for the day. Have a great and a safe week. See you on Saturday, where we'll get into our new module, big data. All right. See you, folks. Thank you. Bye.